Chapter 1103. A few months later, another piece of shocking news spread across the entire eastern heaven. The 3000 Thunder World had actually built an interdomain teleportation formation with the Slaughter Star and officially announced that they would merge with the Qianqiu sect, becoming a subordinate force of the sect. That's right. It was becoming a subordinate force of the Qianqiu sect and not the Slaughter Palace. They only listened to Ning Fan and not anyone else in the Slaughter Palace. If this happened before Ning Fan killed the Immortal Emperor, everyone would think that White Emperor Lan Yunxian had lost her mind. She would rather give up her position as an Immortal Emperor and become someone else's subordinate. However, Ning Fan had already proven his terrifying strength to the entire Eastern Heaven. Besides, he already had an ancient existence like immortal concubine Zhongyu as his subordinates. Thus, it was not unacceptable for him to have another White Emperor. This matter further confirmed a rumor which was that White Emperor Lan Yunxian really loved Ning Fan and their relationship was not shallow. Whether they were really father and daughter or not, no one knew. However, with Ning Fan's bad reputation in terms of women, everyone would think in another direction and make guesses. Countless old monsters of the Eastern Heaven who admired White Emperor were heartbroken. There were many people who envied Ning Fan's luck with women. Of course, no one dared to go to the Slaughter Palace and cause trouble for Ning Fan because of this matter. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed since the battle that day. 10 years ago, 3 emperors of the Calamity race had fallen in the Slaughter Palace. However, they did not seem to know about it at all. They actually did not use any means to take revenge. It made people's imaginations run wild and speculated about it. During these 10 years, Ning Fan had been comprehending the cross-shaped halo and gradually gained some insights. In the beginning, when he was at his peak state, he could activate the cross-shaped halo for 224 breaths, which was his limit. However, after 10 years of comprehension, the duration of the cross-shaped halo had increased to 227 breaths. Although it was just an extra 3 breaths, these 3 breaths were enough for Ning Fan to kill many more enemies in his peak state. It was considered a significant improvement. When Ning Fan roughly comprehended the cross-shaped halo, he knew that it would become the strongest technique among all the techniques he possessed in the future. This cross-shaped halo was a type of technique that had a huge room for growth. It was a collection of abilities. The more techniques and abilities Ning Fan mastered, the stronger the cross-shaped halo would be. Killing Emperor Fushan back then was just the tip of the iceberg of this cross-shaped halo. Ning Fan used Zhongyu and the immortal Loli to test it repeatedly. Once he activates the cross-shaped halos, it would not be difficult for him to kill a 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor if he catches them by surprise. He also has a high chance of killing a 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperor. However, Immortal Emperors who are above the 8th Tribulation Immortal Emperor would have a high chance of escaping from his cross-shaped halos. Moreover, this was still an unexpected situation. If it was those Eastern Skies' various kings who had repeatedly researched the cross-halo for 10 years, they would have most likely already thought of some methods to deal with this cross-halo. The fact that he had been able to kill the Disaster Race's 3 sovereigns so easily back then was because this technique was new. The 3 sovereigns did not have much time to think about the technique's flaws. If it was an immortal emperor who had studied this technique for 10 years, it would not be easy to kill him. There was no such thing as an invincible power in this world, and there was no such thing as eternal invincibility. If he entered the cross-shaped halo, he would be captured without a fight. Wouldn't it be fine if he just kept his distance and didn't enter? Let's use ranged attacks to determine the victor. Was Ning Fan's speed too heaven-defying when he activated the cross-shaped halos? Would he close in and forcefully activate his halo? Then, he had to think of a way to prevent himself from getting close to him. Even if he managed to get close to him, he was not really helpless. Didn't the 2 immortal emperors of the Disaster Race escape by using a substitute technique? There were many other similar techniques. As long as he was not as useless as Emperor Fushan, who was completely suppressed the moment he appeared, everything would be fine. 10 years had passed. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos seemed to have completely disappeared from the world. Everyone thought that he had already perished. What was strange was that the dark race actually did not launch a large-scale attack. 10 years had passed. Ning Fan's luck had improved from the 4th color to the 5th color. This was naturally thanks to him absorbing the 7-colored luck of Emperor Fushan that day. 10 years had passed. Ning Fan had searched for ancient techniques everywhere and secretly unsealed the immemorial lightning cauldron. Then, he devoured the Eastern Mountain divine lightning inside the cauldron. The immemorial lightning cauldron was a mid-grade innate magic treasure. As time passed, it could absorb the power of heaven and earth and continuously produce the Eastern Mountain divine lightning inside the cauldron. Very few people knew what benefits Ning Fan had obtained after devouring the Eastern Mountain divine lightning. Only a few cultivators of the Thousand Years sect and the Slaughter Palace saw that on the day when Ning Fan completely refined the divine lightning, there was an extremely small trace of innate lightning that split heaven and earth in the vicinity of the Slaughter Star. Together with the power of the innate devil flame, it formed an extremely unique lightning flame. There were rumors that Ning Fan, the 8th Slaughter Emperor, had successfully cultivated the innate lightning and innate devil flame in the past 10 years. Then, he merged the lightning and flame together, improving his strength to a whole new level. 10 years had passed. Ning Fan had already obtained the heaven-splitting stone from Xiang Bozi and repaired the God Extermination Shield. 10 years had passed and he had truly recovered to his peak state. In the past 10 years, the Eastern Heaven that was plagued with wars had also been involved in various battles. However, none of them had anything to do with Ning Fan. However, on a certain day 10 years later, a battle invitation was suddenly sent from the Dark Continent and it was directed at Ning Fan. It was the 3rd battle invitation sent by the Dark Race. It was as if the Dark Race was waiting for Ning Fan to fully comprehend the cross-shaped halos and adjust himself to his peak state before issuing a formal challenge to Ning Fan. This time, the battle invitation no longer contained those humiliating and provocative words. This time, there was only one word written in the battle invitation. It was written with the power of the Dark Realm Master. Fight. When Ning Fan opened the battle invitation, the power of the Dark Realm Master that was contained in that single word actually caused the entire Slaughter Star to turn dark for a moment, losing all its light. It was unknown who wrote this battle invitation. Ning Fan could not tell the exact cultivation base of the person who wrote it either. However, the terrifying killing intent it contained was no small matter. Even someone like Ning Fan who had experienced killing for a long time could not help but suck in a cold breath. An ancient great cultivator, even though the battle invitation did not reveal any chi of his cultivation base, Ning Fan could still tell that the person who wrote it was an ancient great cultivator. The fact that there was actually an ancient great cultivator in the Dark Race shocked Ning Fan greatly. Moreover, the impression that the Dark Race gave Ning Fan had always been sinister, cowardly, despicable, and shameless. However, only this time did this battle invitation give Ning Fan a sense of righteousness. Well, it was no wonder that the ancient great cultivators and the ordinary cultivators of the Dark Race would have different standards of tolerance. Ancient great cultivators had their own pride. It was true that this person wanted to kill Ning Fan, but he disdained to use sinister methods to deal with an ancient immortal venerate. This kind of disdain was not fear. It was different from the ordinary cultivators of the Dark Race who feared ancient chaos and did not dare to act recklessly. The words of the ancient great cultivator who wrote the 3rd battle invitation were filled with killing intent, dominance, ruthlessness, but there was no fear. This person was not afraid of ancient chaos. This person had been waiting for Ning Fan to go to the Dark Continent. The reason why he did not take the initiative to attack was because he wanted to give Ning Fan a chance to die in a dignified manner. It was not an assassination. One could even speculate that what the Dark Race did to Ning Fan in the past was not the doing of this old monster. Because if this old monster really wanted to bully the weak and kill Ning Fan, there was no need for him to get someone else to do it, and he would not care whether ancient chaos was dead or alive. Ancient great cultivator. The dark race has an ancient great cultivator as their leader. Should I go to this decisive battle? If I go, I might die. But if I don't go, something more important will be broken because of this. The pride of being the successor of ancient chaos and the soul of a Tao guardian would be broken, if the dark race set up an inescapable net in the dark continent to kill Ning Fan would certainly not foolishly go to his death. However, if the other party really wanted to have a fair duel and this duel also had the meaning of determining who was stronger between the dark race and the ancient chaos clan, he would not run away even if the other party had a great expert from the ancient era as their backing and even if the battle was filled with dangers. I can't win against ancient great cultivators. I can't win against first and second level quasi-saints. I can't even win against 8th and 9th tribulation immortal emperors. However, even if I can't win against them, I'm confident that I can protect myself. Once I activate the cross-shaped halos, even ancient great cultivators won't be able to stop me. Of course, it's impossible for me to believe that they won't set up a trap just because of a battle invitation. If they are upright, I will also fight fair and square. If they are playing tricks, I will make the entire dark race pay for this. On this day, Ning Fan quietly left the slaughter palace. He did not tell anyone nor did he bring any helpers with him. A few days later, Ning Fan arrived at the Dark Continent. He wanted to fight the entire Dark Continent with his own strength. If he asks for help, Xiang Bozi and the other quasi-saints would definitely come to help him. However, he did not do so. It was because he understood that the Dark Race also understood that this battle was the grudge between the Dark Race and Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. The grudge would be settled among the descendants of the Dark Race. Ning Fan was 70% sure that the ancient great cultivators of the Dark Race would not interfere. In fact, even the quasi-saints would not interfere. However, he was also 30% prepared. Challenging the entire Dark Race with his own strength might seem arrogant. However, being alone was actually more advantageous for him to escape from this place when the situation calls for it. After all, if he is alone, he was confident that no one would be able to stop him. However, if he brings others with him, he did not have the confidence to travel freely in the territory of the ancient great cultivators. In the desolate starry sky, countless broken continents were floating in the sky. They were faintly discernible in the gloomy black mist. It was unknown how many broken continents there were in this place. No cultivator of Eastern Heaven had truly counted them. If one takes a closer look, they would realize that the black mist that lingered above the continents was actually not mist. Instead, it was tiny black insects that were hard to be seen with the naked eye. They gathered together while buzzing. On the surface, they actually looked similar to clouds of mist. However, only those who had some understanding of this continent knew how terrifying these tiny black insects were. If an ordinary true immortal was attacked by a swarm of these black insects, it would only take them a short while to devour their flesh and blood, leaving only their bones behind. This was the Dark Continent, one of the many ominous places in Eastern Heaven. Perhaps it was because the baleful qi that Ning Fan was giving off was a little too strong. After he arrived, the black mist in the vicinity began to disperse to both sides, as if it did not dare to stop him from entering. Ning Fan took a step into one of the countless continents. The moment he stepped into it, black rays of light suddenly rose into the sky from the borders of the continents and gradually spread to the distant heaven and earth. Those black rays of light connected together and turned into an incomparably massive black prison of light, enveloping the entire dark continent within it. If one were to look at it from the outside, one would realize that the entire dark continent looked like it had been wrapped inside a gigantic black egg. However, Ning Fan who was inside it naturally could not see it. The scenery of the continent in front of him had completely fallen into darkness. Only a few ghost flames were floating between heaven and earth, bringing a weak light to heaven and earth. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He summoned the ocean-defying sword and casually slashed at the black prison of light. However, he realized that he could not even leave a shallow mark on the prison. It only created a few ripples and the prison of light returned to normal. Ning Fan knew that the dark race must have already found out about his arrival. Thus, they used some kind of method to trap him in this place until he dies. They did not want to give him any chance to escape from the Dark Continent. However, could this black prison of light that seals the entire Dark Continent really trap him? According to the strength of the prison of light that Ning Fan had tested with his sword, it was not impossible for him to break this prison of light and escape if he uses all of his means. I am in Yuanchen. Are you the successor of ancient Wangu? The faint voice of an elderly man suddenly reverberated in the pitch-black heaven and earth. It was indistinct and it was hard to discern the origin of the voice. Ning Fan's heart immediately shuddered. And Yuanchen is the progenitor of the dark race. He actually did not die in the ancient times and is still alive today. If that's the case, the ancient great cultivator of the dark race is in Yuanchen. No wonder he is not afraid of great Emperor Wangu. He has the qualifications to do so. That's right. Even though Ning Fan knew that the other party was an ancient figure who was as famous as great Emperor Wangu, he would not have any stage fright. After all, he had seen many things in the world. Even great cultivators from the ancient times would not be able to scare him. I don't have much time left in my life. However, I must defeat ancient Wangu once in this life no matter what. Only then can I die in peace. In the past, I wasn't a match for ancient Wangu. I have fought him thousands of times but I have never won once. However, I firmly believe that my disciple is not any weaker than ancient Wangu's successor. The reason why I sent you 3 war invitations to lure you here is to kill you and prove this to ancient Wangu. However, after witnessing your battle 10 years ago, I began to cherish your talent. If you are willing to betray ancient Wangu and join my sect, the grudges between you and my clan will be written off. I can even directly appoint you as the clan leader of the dark race and give you a position that is second only to me. The entire dark race will listen to your commands. Are you willing to do so? No matter how calm Ning Fan was, he was also stunned by Yuanchen's words. Before coming to the Dark Continent, Ning Fan had imagined thousands of confrontations with the dark race. However, he had never thought that he would be recruited by the progenitor of the dark race. If he betrays ancient Wangu, he could directly become the leader of the dark race and rule over the entire dark race. What kind of power and influence was that? What kind of importance was that? Unfortunately, no matter how powerful the power and influence was, it was just a fleeting cloud in Ning Fan's eyes. He had always remembered the kindness that the illusory old man had given him time and time again. He remembered the tradition of the Lai Origin sect and his promise. He remembered the illusory but warm palm of the old man when he patted his shoulder. Ning Fan did not answer him. His expression was calm. It was a silent rejection. Hee, a gratified laughter spread across heaven and earth. And Yuanchen was actually laughing, as if he was very satisfied with Ning Fan's answer. Very good. Very good. Even such great benefits cannot sway your heart. Only then you are worthy to be the last disciple of the Lai Origin sect and the disciple of ancient Wangu. You are very good. Only then will you have the value to kill me. So, the previous invitation was just a test. Don't worry. I have been in a deep slumber for many years and I rarely wake up. The methods that my clan used to deal with you in the past were not ordered by me. Today, I'll kill you in an open and above-board manner. No quasi-saint will interfere in this battle. Sure enough, and Yuanchen was different from the other cultivators of the dark race. He had the pride of an ancient great cultivator. This also explained why Ning Fan received an unreasonable battle invitation as soon as he left the Supreme Pill's sacred region. It was because the schemes of the dark race in the past were not ordered by an Yuanchen. Only this battle invitation was. Then, the hunt begins. Next, the entire Dark Continent will become a battlefield. With my order, whoever kills Ning Fan will be rewarded with 100 dark time fruits and 1,000 ancient concubines. Kill. Kill. Kill! Earth-shattering cheers came from all directions. All of them were the voices of the cultivators of the dark race. As the saying goes, brave men are bound to appear when there is a great reward. After 10 years of research, the members of the dark race had done some research on Ning Fan's cross-shaped halo. They were confident that they already had a countermeasure. Today, there was only Ning Fan as the prey while there were thousands of hunters. Even though quasi-saints could not take action, immortal emperors were not restricted. Could Ning Fan leave the dark race alive? Absolutely not. It was ridiculous that Ning Fan actually dared to come here alone. His arrogance rendered everyone speechless. No matter how strong this young man's abilities are, he is just an ancient immortal venerate. As long as the cross-shaped halo is restrained, he will certainly die. The only variable was that they did not know who would be lucky enough to get the credit of killing Ning Fan. 1 billion resentment technique. Suddenly, a cold and emotionless voice came from the depths of the endless darkness. It carried the aura of a 9 tribulation immortal emperor. At the moment when the voice resounded, Ning Fan felt his body becoming lighter. His vision blurred and he was sucked away, disappearing from his original spot. At the next moment, he appeared on a massive grave. Countless ancient tombstones were circling around him. Each of the tombstones had a ghost attached to it. Their resentment was overwhelming. Ning Fan scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and his expression darkened. This place was no longer the outer region of the Dark Continent but the deepest part of the continent. There were hundreds of thousands of broken continents between them and the outer region. An illusory 9 tribulation immortal emperor that looked like ghost flames stood 10,000 zhang away from the grave. He was waving an innate peachwood sword while chanting. All of a sudden, the surroundings were filled with ghostly cries. Countless resentment waves rushed towards Ning Fan. It sounded like laughter and crying at the same time, like a devil monk chanting an incantation. It was indescribably unpleasant to the ears. As soon as he was hit by the sound waves, he felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. Black blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. He was already injured internally. Fortunately, his sea of consciousness was stronger than ordinary people. If it were other immortal venerables or immortal kings, their sea of consciousness would probably collapse and they would die after being hit by the sound waves. He actually didn't die. Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame was slightly surprised as if he did not expect that he would end up like this after lowering his status to launch a sneak attack. Then, he sneered and pointed the peachwood sword at the sky. The resentment chi of the curse instantly increased by more than 1-fold. Ning Fan smiled. So, this is the fair and upright duel that in Yuanshan mentioned. He thought that it would be a fair one-on-one duel. At worst, he would be dragged into a one-on-one battle. But it turns out that it's not the case. Besides, didn't the battle invitation say that the one who will fight him will be the 100 seedlings of the dark race? The 100 seedlings and the 100 seedlings should be the younger generation of the dark race. Why is there a 9 tribulation immortal emperor? Could it be that this old 9 tribulation immortal emperor is also one of the younger generation of the dark race? Hee. How interesting. Perhaps in Yuanshan's opinion, the fact that he did not attack Ning Fan personally and did not ask the quasi-saints to do so was already considered a kind of fairness. If this is the fair duel in Yuanshan's eyes, then there is no need for Ning Fan to hold back anymore. He had been tolerating the dark races for far too long. Ning Fan took a step forward and his figure suddenly disappeared from the gigantic grave. His ghost-like speed made Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame's eyes shrink and his heart skip a beat. He was a dignified 9 tribulation Immortal Emperor but he actually could not see Ning Fan's speed clearly. The astonishment in his heart was no small matter. He thought to himself, could it be that this young man can still be so fast without activating the cross-shaped halo? Isn't this a little too scary? Fortunately, when the surrounding formation light shook, the surrounding space began to shake violently. Ning Fan let out a muffled groan and his figure was pushed away by the formation light. His figure was revealed and he fell back to the gigantic grave from mid-air. Seeing that Ning Fan was forced back to his original spot by the formation that he had set up in advance, Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame finally calmed down a little. He had studied the cross-shaped halo for 10 years. He knew very well that as long as he could trap Ning Fan somewhere and prevent him from getting close to him, the cross-shaped halo would not pose a threat to him at all. He could easily kill Ning Fan outside of the range of the cross-shaped halo. Heavenly Dao Curse Vault. Dao Curse Ambush. Human Dao Curse Song. Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame consecutively stabbed out 3 times while maintaining a super long distance. The sound waves formed by his resentment became heavier and heavier. It tore apart the great Dao and collapsed the ground. Even heaven and earth had double shadows because of the trembling. Ning Fan felt that the injuries to his sea of consciousness were getting worse. He knew that he was no match for this Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame. Perhaps he could still have the power to fight if he activated the cross-shaped halo. However, he knew that there were thousands of cultivators from the entire dark race who participated in the hunt for him. All of them were elites of the dark race. If he uses his strongest trump card right from the start of the battle and uses up all of his mental power, he would not be able to deal with the enemies behind him. Moreover, even if he activates the cross-shaped halo, he was not confident that he could kill this Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame. His chances of winning were less than 5%. It was better for him to keep his trump card and wait for the right time. He's still not dead. Then, I'll make it a little more severe. Before Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame could finish his words, his eyes suddenly shrank and his face was filled with astonishment. Ning Fan flipped his hand and the ocean-defying sword appeared in his hand. With a slash, the great force of heaven and earth was split into 2. The formation of the huge grave immediately collapsed. With another slash, millions of tombstones were destroyed by Ning Fan, creating a gap in the formation of the gravestones. Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame was shocked. He wanted to reform the tombstones and seal the space of this place, trapping Ning Fan in this place. Unfortunately, the speed at which he formed the tombstones was not as fast as Ning Fan's slashes. Ning Fan's attacks were as fast as lightning. His sword light flashed everywhere. In just an instant, he had made hundreds of slashes. After that, there were only a few tombstones left in this place. The ground was filled with broken tombstones. The ghosts that were attached to the tombstones were also killed by Ning Fan. There were no longer any resentful thoughts or sound waves that attacked his sea of consciousness. He could finally hear peace and quiet. A 9-tribulation Immortal Emperor is only a so-so. Ning Fan sneered. What a vile creature. I've spent millions of years to refine these 1 billion resentful spirits. Today, you've actually killed all of them. I'm going to peel off your skin and pull out your tendons to refine you into a resentful spirit to compensate for my loss. Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame was infuriated by Ning Fan's laughter. He raised his hand and the peach-wood sword in his hand immediately soared into the sky. Then, it split into 10 pieces and then into 100 pieces. Eventually, it turned into millions of swords that rained down on Ning Fan. This peachwood sword was just a low-grade innate magic treasure. However, its user's cultivation base was too high. Its power was unfathomable. It could severely injure an ordinary Immortal Emperor with a single strike. Ning Fan did not plan to face it head-on, nor did he plan to stay here and waste his magic power with Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame. His figure flashed. Before the rain of swords could fall on him, he had already vanished without a trace. The millions of swords missed their target and fell on the ground, splitting the entire continent into countless pieces. Not good. That little bastard actually managed to escape. Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame was extremely anxious. He was not willing to share this great achievement with others. Of course, he had to monopolize it. How could he let his prey escape? He kept the peach-wood sword and rode on a 7-colored traveling light to chase after Ning Fan. However, there were millions of continents in front of him. It was boundless. Where should he go to find Ning Fan? He had no choice but to take out a compass. There was a tiny blinking dot on the tracing compass. That tiny dot represented Ning Fan's current location. Each of the cultivators of the dark race who participated in the hunt for Ning Fan had a tracing compass like this. It would be fine if Ning Fan did not enter the dark continent. However, once he enters the continent, they would use this compass to locate him. Ning Fan would have nowhere to hide. After confirming Ning Fan's location, Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame chased after him with all his might. However, since his speed was far inferior to Ning Fan's, he naturally could not catch up to him no matter how hard he tried. Currently, Ning Fan did not even need to use the black immortal cloud to shake off Immortal Emperors. His speed was already unimaginably fast. Not long after, the light dot disappeared from the compass. Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame cursed out of anger. This meant that the distance between him and Ning Fan had increased to tens of thousands of continents. At such a distance, even the compass would not be able to locate him. To Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame, Ning Fan had already escaped to an unknown location. The battle was temporarily halted. However, to Ning Fan, enemies were almost everywhere on this dark continent. He would run into people who wanted to kill him no matter where he went. Ning Fan and Immortal Emperor Ghost Flame had increased the distance between them by tens of thousands of continents and escaped from his compass. However, at the same time, he got on the compass of others. As his rain sense dispersed, Ning Fan could sense that there were more than 100 spirit sense locked onto him within the range of tens of thousands of continents. The weaker ones were at the sense fragment realm. They usually gathered in small groups. The stronger ones were immortal venerables, immortal kings and even immortal emperors. All of them were chasing after him from different directions. Ning Fan revealed a cold smile. If he wanted to leave, even in Yuanshan would not be able to stop him today. However, he was not in a hurry to leave at all. Why would he be in a hurry to leave? If he did not make the dark race feel pain and show off the might of the successor of ancient chaos, what right did he have to leave? Just now, he was suppressed by the 9 tribulation immortal emperors of the dark race. However, it did not mean that the other members of the dark race could also suppress him. Screech. An ear-piercing screech suddenly resounded from the front. At the next moment, a giant black bird which was surrounded by lightning bolts suddenly appeared in front of Ning Fan. It carried more than 10 sense fragment realm cultivators on its back. When those cultivators saw that they had caught up to Ning Fan, they were surprised at first. Then, they were overjoyed. They took out their immortal talismans and threw them at Ning Fan. All of a sudden, hundreds and thousands of immortal talismans flew towards Ning Fan. Each of the immortal talismans carried the power of a sense fragment realm cultivator. Some of the more powerful ones even had the power of an immortal venerable or immortal king. The light of the talismans shot towards Ning Fan with an indescribable aura. Ning Fan narrowed his eyes. He thought to himself, the dark race is really generous. They have even prepared so many powerful talismans for the sense fragment realm cultivators. They really want to kill me at all costs. On the path of cultivation, killing one's enemies is just based on one's own means. It's not about being despicable or being fair. The fact that the dark race could distribute so many powerful talismans to sense fragment realm cultivators proved that they had a solid foundation. Unfortunately, these means are still not enough to kill Ning Fan. I am the 97th disciple of the dark race. My name is Njungquang. Remember this name. After I kill you, I will be the clan leader of the dark race. Then, I will let my name be remembered by the future generations. On the giant bird, a young man who looked like the leader of the group laughed greedily. He was already fascinated by the huge reward of killing Ning Fan. However, the laughter was only halfway through before it stopped. Suddenly, a ray of fiery light flashed across heaven and earth. It was like the first light of dawn that dispelled the darkness and the lightning that split the night sky. In just a flash, thousands of immortal talismans, the giant bird and the tens of sense fragment realm cultivators were all turned into ashes and dispersed by the strong wind. They did not even scream. They did not even bother to leave one or two storage pouches behind. Ning Fan held the wind and fire fan in his hand and continued to advance with a cold expression. To him, destroying more than 10 sense fragment realm cultivators with a single fan was not considered an impressive achievement. There were still many enemies. If it's an unnecessary battle, it's not advisable to waste too much magic power. It's better to use magic treasures to conserve magic power. As for Zhengquang, the 97th disciple of the dark race, Ning Fan was too lazy to remember such complicated names and titles. Currently, he did not activate the cross-shaped halos. Thus, he could only use the life-killing technique alone. After killing more than 10 sense fragment realm cultivators, his chi became slightly stronger. It was the effect of the life-killing technique. Moreover, there were also traces of memories of divine abilities that flowed into Ning Fan's sea of consciousness for no reason after killing those sense fragment realm cultivators. Ning Fan knew that the Tao seizing from the void that he had comprehended in the past 10 years had finally taken effect. However, because his understanding of the Tao seizing from the void was not deep enough, the memories of the divine abilities that he obtained from killing others were very fragmented and could not be of great use. You all treat me as your prey, but I also treat you all as my prey. One of the 100 seedlings of the dark race has already been killed. There are still 99 of them left. I wonder if this Yuanshan will still be able to talk to me calmly after I kill all of them. Or perhaps the lives of the 100 seedlings of the dark race are just worthless in his eyes. Otherwise, why would he be willing to send them to hunt me down? Ning Fan sneered and dashed across the continent. In the blink of an eye, Yun Yan had already locked onto the young talents of the dark race one after another. Since the others were already prepared to kill him to claim the merit, he naturally would not show them any mercy. He could not defeat the old ones, but the young ones. Chapter 1104. Dark Monarch is dead. Almost at the same time Zhengquang died, the experts of the dark races who were chasing after Ning Fan sensed it and were slightly surprised. After all, Zhengquang was only ranked 97th among the dark tribe's 100 seedlings. His cultivation base was just at the sense-shattering realm, which was not even at the immortal venerable realm. Thus, it was normal for him to be killed by Ning Fan. AI, it's really troublesome. Why does Ancestor have to target this ancient chaos successor? I, Tiantu, hate trouble the most. In the dark sky, a young immortal venerable with a pair of wings on his back muttered to himself impatiently. He was the 17th dark seedling, Lai. Even though he said that it would be troublesome, he still followed the guidance of the compass and chased after Ning Fan with all his might. His lazy eyes also hid a trace of greed. Lai did not like trouble. However, if killing Ning Fan would give him a huge reward, then it would be an exception. For this matter, he had made plenty of preparations. According to the compass, the distance between him and Ning Fan was getting closer and closer. Ning Fan was probably flying towards him and had killed all the geniuses of the dark races along the way. 94th son, Hai is also dead, the 82nd disciple, Lei has fallen, the 69th child, Shao is dead. The 43rd disciple, Feng is dead. The closer he got to Ning Fan, the darker Lai's eyes became. In just less than 100 breaths of time, more than 10 heavenly geniuses of the dark race and more than 100 broken thoughts of the dark race had already died in Ning Fan's hands. How was this possible? One should know that all the cultivators of the dark race who participated in this hunt had made ample preparations before they came to hunt Ning Fan. Closer, closer, the distance between Lai and Ning Fan was getting closer and closer. He could not help but feel a hint of nervousness and excitement. Suddenly, there was a large blaze burning ahead. And Dong Lai stopped abruptly and widened his eyes. Right in front of his eyes, another thought-severing heavenly prodigy of the dark race was burned to ashes by Ning Fan. Even the 19th child, Dark Heaven Stone, isn't a match for this person. It seems that I am also in danger. Even though he said that it was dangerous, and Dong Lai could not conceal his excitement. Step by step, he walked towards Ning Fan in the sky. Ning Fan walked out from the flames that blotted out the sky. His eyes were cold and emotionless, looking at Dong Lai as if he was looking at a dead man. This person's cultivation base was just an eternal second tribulation immortal venerable. Thus, Ning Fan did not pay any attention to him. However, for some unknown reason, this person actually gave Ning Fan a sense of danger. Thus, Ning Fan did not underestimate Dong Lai and chose not to kill him as soon as they met. Instead, he chose to observe him. This ancient chaos successor actually didn't immediately kill me when he saw me. And Dong Lai was surprised. He thought that Ning Fan couldn't have seen through the peculiarity of his physique, could he? However, he quickly suppressed that thought. His symbiotic fate physique was such a secret that no one knew about it other than the few existences in the clan. Common death constitution, as the name suggested, meant that those who killed others would be linked to their lives, cursed, and die together. Unless it was a celestial king or celestial emperor whose cultivation was several levels higher than him, no one would be able to ignore this curse. No matter how strong Ning Fan was, he was just an ancient immortal venerable. And Dong Lai firmly believed that Ning Fan could not resist his special physique. Inside his dantian, Dong Lai's primordial spirit was holding 3 purplish golden pills in his hands. He was extremely excited. These 3 pills were the death-avoiding pills that the clan had spent a huge amount of resources to find for him. They could allow him to revive 3 times. Perhaps. I only need to use 1 pill to kill Ning Fan today. Dying together once would be enough. You are the successor of ancient chaos. How dare you come to my dark clan alone with such a weak cultivation base? What a trash! Dong Lai's tone was extremely arrogant, trying to provoke Ning Fan into attacking him. Ning Fan gave Dong Lai a deep look. His eyes flashed with green light, as if he could see through Dong Lai's entire body. Dong Lai's heart shuddered. At this moment, being stared at by Ning Fan, he actually had the feeling that he was being stared at by the ancestor of his clan. It was really unimaginable. Curse technique. I see. Your body carries a curse. Is this innate? Since you were born with such a special physique, you should have a rather transcendent position in the Dark Clan, right? Ning Fan said indifferently. These simple words caused Dong Lai's expression to change drastically. If the immortal emperors of the clan did not know about his physique beforehand, they would not be able to see through it. However, Ning Fan actually saw through everything with just a single glance. Is this the eyesight of the successor of ancient chaos? Curses are born from karma. If there is no karma, there will be no curse. You think you can die with me, but in fact, it's all in vain. Ning Fan seemed to have seen through everything about Dong Lai. He no longer had any worries in his heart. He suddenly waved the wind and fire fan. Countless flames swept towards Dong Lai, causing him to feel so terrified that he almost suffocated. This fan was the attack of an innate magic treasure. However, it was not just the power of an innate magic treasure. Due to the integration of the power of innate lightning and innate flame, the power of this treasure was more than doubled. Only a few low-grade innate magic treasures could achieve such power. Dong Lai, a dignified immortal venerate in the ancient times, actually could not withstand the flames for even a moment and was directly burned into ashes. At the same time, thousands of continents away, the sky above a hill that had been marked by Dong Lai a long time ago suddenly shone brightly. Then, an immortal venerate with 2 wings walked out from it unscathed. However, he was not really unscathed. After his rebirth, Ndonglai's cultivation base had greatly declined from the second eternal tribulation to the first eternal tribulation. Obviously, this kind of rebirth was not without a price. Terrifying. This is too terrifying. Is this the power of the successor of ancient chaos? Is this the monster that our clan had to deal with in the past? I am also an immortal venerate and he is also an immortal venerate. I can even fight against some weak immortal kings without being defeated. However, I can't even survive for half a breath in his hands. How can the gap between us be so huge? However, he still chose to kill me. Ha ha ha. No matter how strong this person is, he still died with me in the end. He clearly saw through everything about me but he still dared to attack me. This person is really stupid. Before the last word, stupid, could come out of his mouth, Ndonglai felt his hair stand on end. At this moment, a voice that was as cold as the netherworld resounded behind him. It was bone-chilling. Interesting. You can actually come back from the dead. I wonder how many times you can be reborn. It was Ning Fan. This person had actually separated the karma and was not hurt by my mutual death curse at all. Impossible. How can you still be alive? You clearly killed me. You clearly. Ndonglai's face began to contort and he began to panic. He no longer had any of his usual confidence. Ning Fan was too lazy to talk nonsense with Ndonglai. He waved his palm leaf fan again and burned him into ashes. This person had a special physique which made Ning Fan pay attention to him. However, that was all. In this world, there were too many enemies who possessed special abilities. Ning Fan had seen a lot of them and he had also killed a lot of them. Thus, he was already used to it. Tens of thousands of continents away, Ndonglai was reborn for the second time. Cold sweat poured down his face like rain. Ning Fan actually did not get killed by the mutual death curse. Ning Fan actually crossed the distance of thousands of continents in an instant and caught up to him. Then, he killed him for the second time. Fortunately, his second resurrection point was set further away. Ning Fan should not be able to catch up to him. I must run away immediately, and Ndonglai turned around and was about to leave. However, just as he turned around, he saw a cold and emotionless face staring at him. It was Ning Fan. This person could actually cross the distance of tens of thousands of continents with just a single step. How could there be such a terrifying speed in this world? Explode! Ndonglai was decisive and directly detonated his physical body and primordial spirit. However, this self-detonation naturally could not hurt Ning Fan at all. He did not wait for Ning Fan to kill him because he knew that the mutual death curse was ineffective against Ning Fan. Outside the 100,000 continents, Ndonglai resurrected for the last time. His cultivation base had already fallen to the broken thought realm. His face was pale and his heart was beating wildly. He had already used up all of his death exemption pills. All of them were genuine 9 revolutions emperor pills. He could not find a fourth one with him anymore. This time, I should be able to run away. His spirit sense shouldn't be able to lock onto me from so far away. Even if his speed is fast enough, his spirit sense shouldn't be able to, drip, drip, drip. It was a fine drizzle that casually fell from the sky. A man in white walked out of the curtain of rain indifferently. He still did not waste time talking to Ndonglai. Instead, he burned him into ashes with a wave of his fan. This time, Ndonglai could no longer be resurrected. As for Ning Fan, he finally completed the kill. His eyes looked slightly solemn. As expected, every member of the dark race is well prepared for this battle. Even an ancient immortal venerate could be resurrected 3 times. I'm afraid those who are stronger will be even harder to deal with. Although Ning Fan said that it would not be easy, his expression remained calm. Obviously, he did not put his peers from the dark race in his eyes. The massacre had just begun. Wouldn't it be more interesting if the other party had the strength to resist? With a flash, Ning Fan disappeared into the rain. In the distant sky, sparks kept exploding. There were geniuses of the dark race who died in his hands. There were geniuses of the dark race who could connect with the great force of heaven and earth and unleash the power of an immortal emperor in an instant. However, his great force was crushed by Ning Fan's foot and he was stomped into minced meat along with him. There were geniuses of the dark race who nurtured millions of formations in their bodies. Every word and action they made was a formation. However, all of their power was frozen in front of Ning Fan. Even when they died, they could not close their eyes in shock. There were geniuses of the dark race who nurtured huge stars in their bodies. Their star technique was almost invincible among those who were at the same level as them. However, all of their stars were incinerated by Ning Fan with just a wave of his hand. There were geniuses of the dark race who gathered all the earth fire in the dark continent in an attempt to burn Ning Fan to death. However, Ning Fan casually absorbed all of the earth fire and helped him recover a large amount of magic power. The 100 seedlings of the dark race died one after another. Even if the people of the same generation were fully prepared, they were still no match for Ning Fan. Yin Luo Sha's face darkened. He had already witnessed Ning Fan's strength back in the Supreme Pill's sacred region. However, he did not expect Ning Fan to be even stronger than before. Since the 100 seedlings of the dark race dared to come here to kill Ning Fan, which one of them did not come with a trump card? Even if the Great Eastern Sky Sovereign were to come here, he certainly would not end up well. However, no one could kill Ning Fan. That day in the Extreme Dan sacred region, I had no power to resist in front of this child. That was because I did not bring my strongest corpse armor, but this time, I will not lose. I'm Yin Luo Sha. I'm the person with the highest aptitude in the history of my clan. Who is Ning Fan? How can he be compared to me? Behind Yin Luofa was a massive black coffin. It was like a million zhang tall mountain, its aura soaring into the sky. Closer, closer, Yin Luosha finally tore off all the talisman seals on the coffin and opened it. Dust filled the air. Inside the coffin was a giant that was close to 1 million zhang tall. Both of his eyes were empty. The giant was wearing a black dragon robe. His attire was indescribably dignified. Black star power was hidden around his body, giving people a feeling that he would never be defeated. Every inch of the giant's skin was broken. It was forcefully stitched together with a needle and thread. It had already lost all signs of life. This was not a living person but a corpse. It was the remains of a supreme existence in the past after he self-detonated. The dark race found the broken pieces of the corpse and stitched them together to form a complete corpse. When Ning Fan followed the chi of Yin Luofa to this place, what he saw was a giant corpse with empty eyes. The chi of the giant corpse was extremely terrifying. It caused Ning Fan's expression to change slightly. However, that was all. When Ning Fan saw the face of the giant corpse clearly, he could no longer suppress the shock and anger in his heart. The face of the giant corpse was none other than Mu Weiliang's biological father, Heaven Sovereign. Why is the corpse of Heaven Sovereign in the hands of the dark race? Didn't Heaven Sovereign self-detonate during the battle of the ancient heavenly court? Why is his corpse here? The scenes that happened between him and Heaven Sovereign flashed across his mind. Under the connection of all living beings, he could hear the sorrow in Heaven Sovereign's corpse. What did you guys do to Heaven Sovereign's corpse? Ning Fan asked coldly. Don't be anxious. You will know very soon, Yin Luofa sneered. His body flashed and turned into a ray of dark light, flying into the dantian of Heaven Sovereign's corpse. At this moment, black ghost flames were burning in the hollow eye sockets of Heaven Sovereign. It was indescribably strange. I see. Using your cultivation base as the primordial spirit of this corpse to control it. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with green light as if he had seen through everything. However, he did not have much time to study it. Under the control of Yin Luofa, Heaven Sovereign's corpse had already broken the giant coffin and walked out. Then, it lifted its foot, wanting to stomp Ning Fan into minced meat. The stomp of the 1,000,000 zhang giant body directly left a giant footprint that was over 100,000 zhang long on the continent. Then, the entire continent trembled slightly. The mountains, rivers, plants and living beings were all turned into ashes. It was so precise that it could crush a speck of dust. If it hits a human body, it would be enough to severely injure a six-tribulation immortal emperor in the Dharma-ending era. Ning Fan was not hit. With his incredible speed, he had already flown into the sky and evaded the attack. However, he was also stunned by the destructive power of the attack. Controlling this corpse with only Yin Luofa's cultivation base could already exert such destructive power. If Heaven Sovereign attacks with his own cultivation base, how destructive would it be? Heaven Sovereign should be an ancient great cultivator when he was still alive. After his death, he became a mere killing toy for Yin Luofa. Little fly, why don't you activate your cross-shaped halos? Could it be that you also know that your cross-shaped halos can't stop an ancient being like Heaven Sovereign? Or do you think you can fight Heaven Sovereign without using your full strength? How arrogant of you! Yin Luofa's laughter reverberated across heaven and earth. He controlled Heaven Sovereign's corpse and threw 100 punches at Ning Fan, who was in the sky. He was confident that Ning Fan could not stop Heaven Sovereign's corpse. According to his research, the coverage of Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos was limited. It would not exceed 10,000 zhang. It was not enough to cover the entire corpse. Hee. Sometimes, having a large body is also beneficial. At least, if his body becomes bigger, he would be able to go beyond the coverage of the cross-shaped halos. Heaven Sovereign's 100 punches sealed all of Ning Fan's escape routes, making it impossible for him to evade. All he could do was to face them head-on with all his might. Ning Fan did not use the God-exterminating shield because he was not sure if an Yuanshan was spying on him at this moment or if he would recognize the heaven-opening treasure. Thus, he chose to activate the cross-shaped halos. Under the interweaving of 100,000 black runes, Ning Fan stood in the sky. His body emitted the dignified aura of an ancient divine being. Since Heaven Sovereign used his fists to attack, he also used his fists to retaliate. Once the cross-shaped halos are activated, not only would Ning Fan's magic power be endless, but he would also have a huge physical body that could recover. The ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike was launched in an instant and he threw out 100 punches at Heaven Sovereign's punches. One after another, the surrounding continents were shattered by the shockwaves from the collision of the punches, turning into dust and vanishing. In front of the 1,000,000 zhang humongous Heaven Sovereign, Ning Fan's body was as tiny as a speck of dust. However, in this collision of punches, they were evenly matched. If it's the real Heaven Sovereign, Ning Fan certainly would not be able to do this. However, his opponent was just the corpse of Heaven Sovereign. The power that Yin Luo Sha could display was probably not even 1/10,000th of the true power of Heaven Sovereign. Heaven Sovereign, Heaven Sovereign. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with a hint of sadness. The senior who once played chess with him in the illusory realm, the emperor who protected the ancient heavenly court until he died in battle, the loving father who was still worried about his daughter when he taught him the black star art, today, all that was left was a corpse that was stitched up by a needle and thread. If Mu Weiliang knew that her biological father had fallen to such a state, how sad would she be? If the cultivators of the ancient heavenly court were still alive and knew that their emperor was being controlled by a child, how sad would they be? Ning Fan felt that his ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike seemed to have fused with something. The destructive power of his punches became stronger and stronger. That kind of enhancement was not just because of the increase in the number of consecutive hits. Instead, it was because each of Ning Fan's punches were filled with emotions and will. The ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike was born from the ancient Devil Tao of destruction. Its destructive power would only be at its greatest when the host wants to destroy something. The feeling of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike becoming stronger could only be sensed but not described. Ning Fan did not want to ask why the corpse of Heaven Sovereign was here. He did not want to ask what the dark race had done to the corpse all these years. At this moment, he only wanted to do one thing. To break all the restraints of Heaven Sovereign. To truly bury the corpse of Heaven Sovereign and let him rest in peace under the yellow earth. Hiss. You're just a cultivator in the last cultivation era, but you're actually able to fight against the ancient heavenly sovereign without losing. Yin Luosha's face turned pale with fright. He performed a hand seal and an endless amount of black star force shot out from the body of Heaven Sovereign. The starlight was as sharp as a flying sword. The billion-star sword slashed at Ning Fan. So, the black star technique can be used like this? Ning Fan was astonished. After the astonishment passed, he sighed with emotion. If Heaven Sovereign himself uses the star sword to kill him, he certainly would not be a match for him. However, if Yin Luosha was like this, it was not worth mentioning at all. Rumble. Rumble, Ning Fan sent out punches after punches. Countless star swords crumbled in the vault of heaven. There was still some black star force left on Heaven Sovereign's corpse. However, there was only a small amount of it left. It was not even 1/1000th of what it had when it was at its peak. Otherwise, why would the remnant waves of Ning Fan's ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike leave a wound on Heaven Sovereign's corpse that could not be healed? Otherwise, why would it take a needle and thread to stitch the flesh together, and why the wound could not be healed? Not even 1,000 manifestation Starry Sky sword can kill you. How about I use the immemorial Starry Sky seal again? Heaven Sovereign pressed one of his hands forward. Hundreds and thousands of illusory stars appeared in the sky and charged at Ning Fan. Ning Fan silently calculated the time and threw out punch after punch. 15 breaths. 16 breaths. 17 breaths. It was the time when the cross-shaped halo was activated. 200 hits. 300 hits. 400 hits. It was the number of consecutive hits of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike that kept increasing. 500 hits. 600 hits. 700 hits. 800 hits. Under the backlash of the 800 hits of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, Ning Fan's body crumbled under the cross-shaped halo time and time again. However, a black shadow flashed and his flesh and blood reformed. At this moment, he no longer needed to worry about his magic power being insufficient or his physical body not being able to withstand the backlash of the 800 hits. What he needed to worry about was not him but Yin Luosha. Under the 800 consecutive hits, Heaven Sovereign's corpse exploded. Countless pieces of flesh that were forcefully stitched together burst apart and a foul smell filled the air. Yin Luosha spurted out blood and appeared in the sky. Now that he had lost the protection of Heaven Sovereign's physical body, how would he still dare to fight against Ning Fan? His body was trembling uncontrollably. He exploded. Heaven Sovereign's physical body was actually destroyed by Ning Fan's 800 consecutive punches. Even though Heaven Sovereign's corpse no longer had any signs of life, even some of the great Eastern Heaven Sovereigns would not be able to destroy it. However, Ning Fan could do it. He's really a monster. Great escape of Dark Ancestor. Yin Luosha no longer dared to continue fighting after losing his greatest support. His body flashed and vanished without a trace. However, Ning Fan tore apart heaven and earth and pulled him out from within. After that, he exploded with a single punch. It was already Yin Luosha's honor to be hit by the 801st punch of the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Of course, he could not resist at all. With just a single punch, he turned into a mist of blood and died without even having the chance to scream. Countless old monsters of the dark race who sensed what had happened all sucked in a cold breath. Who would have thought that even Yin Luosha, who had used Heaven Sovereign's corpse, was not a match for Ning Fan? Even though he was not frozen by the cross-shaped halo, he was still no match for him. Trash. All of you are trash. We are all members of the younger generation, but why is there such a huge gap between the juniors of my clan and Ning Fan? Trash like him deserves to die. A third tribulation immortal king was infuriated. He moved stealthily towards the direction where Ning Fan and Yin Luo Sha were fighting. Even though he was traveling stealthily, his speed was actually faster than many high-level immortal kings who were flying at full speed. It was really impressive. This person's name was Tianqing. He was an old generation immortal king of the dark race. He was also the person who was the closest to Ning Fan right now. He might not be the person with the highest cultivation base in the dark race, but he was certainly the best at assassination. For some unknown reason, after Ning Fan killed Yin Luo Sha, he actually stayed at the same place and did not go anywhere else. This surprised Tianqing. Tianqing bent his body and flew in the sky. From time to time, his hand would touch the dagger hanging on his waist. It was a dagger made from a beast's tooth. The edge of the blade did not look sharp, but it gave off a strange feeling as if there was nothing it could not tear apart. As long as he touched this beast's tooth dagger, Tianqing would feel at ease. Even if his opponent was someone who could kill immortal emperors, Tianqing was not afraid of him. When Tianqing sneaked all the way to the battlefield and saw Ning Fan busily collecting the pieces of Heaven Sovereign's corpse, he immediately understood why Ning Fan stayed here and did not leave. It turns out that this young man is interested in the corpse of Heaven Sovereign. Unfortunately, the vitality of these pieces of corpse has already been depleted. They are now just like scrap metal. Even the old ancestor could not truly repair them. Just stitching this corpse back together has already cost me a huge price. In return, I only obtained a corpse armor with the combat power of an immortal emperor. It is still useful to the juniors, but it is not something extraordinary. Now that this corpse has been destroyed for the second time, it is even more useless. It is meaningless for this young man to collect these pieces of corpse, but he doesn't know it. Tianqing's heart was filled with disdain. He tiptoed towards Ning Fan step by step. He was confident that his stealth was unparalleled in the world. Even immortal emperors would rarely be able to detect his presence. His proudest achievement in his life was participating in the assassination of an immortal emperor of the Southern Clan. Even though he did not kill that immortal emperor, his dantian was severely damaged and his foundation was greatly damaged. With his rich experience in assassination, Tianqing was naturally not nervous at all, even if his opponent this time was Ning Fan. If it is a head-on battle, his strength would be considered weak even among the third tribulation immortal kings. He probably would not be a match for Ning Fan. However, if it is an assassination, he was confident that he could kill 10 Ning Fan. 10 steps, 9 steps, 8 steps, Tianqing was getting closer and closer to Ning Fan. He pulled out his dagger, planning to stab Ning Fan's waist from his back and break open his dantian. 7 steps, 6 steps, 5 steps, 4 steps, Tianqing could hear his heart pounding violently. It was not because he was nervous but because he was excited. 3 steps, 2 steps, 1 step, Tianqing thrust his dagger forward and accurately pierced Ning Fan's waist and back. The feeling of a knife cutting through tofu did not make Tianqing feel suspicious at all. He knew that Ning Fan's physical body was strong, but no matter how strong it was still tofu in front of the piercing all living things divine dagger. Soon, however, he could no longer remain calm. Ning Fan, who was pierced by the dagger, suddenly became faint and disappeared like the moon in the water. Damn it! It's actually an illusion technique. Not good. Dispel it. Tianqing was greatly shocked. He forcefully dispelled the illusion technique and coughed out a mouthful of blood. Then, his soul almost left his body. The scene where he tried to assassinate Ning Fan was actually an illusion. At this moment, he was holding the dagger in his hand and was still in a crouching posture. However, he was not invisible. Could it be that the moment he fell into the illusion technique, his invisibility was automatically dispelled? The dagger in your hand actually gave me a sense of danger. If I really let you get close to me, I might be killed by you. Unfortunately, how could there be so many possibilities and ifs in a battle between cultivators? Ning Fan's perception of the rain technique was extremely terrifying. How could he be assassinated by someone who was stealthily approaching him? And Tianqing knew that something was amiss. He turned invisible again and tried to escape from this place. However, Ning Fan casually tore apart heaven and earth and caught him. If it wasn't for the assassination, he was just a weak immortal king. How could he be Ning Fan's opponent? And Tianqing made up his mind and used his abilities to fight against Ning Fan. However, he was burnt into ashes by Ning Fan's wind and fire fan in just one move. My attack was a little too heavy, both in Tianqing and his storage pouch had been burnt to ashes. There are still spoils of war. Ning Fan was slightly surprised. He took out the beast-toothed dagger that Tianqing always carried with him and held it in his hand. This dagger was actually not burnt by the wind and fire fan. It's really extraordinary. No wonder it could give me a sense of danger. It's not an innate magic treasure. This item was not forged in any way. It was just a sharp beast tooth with a pendant. It looked like a dagger. Moreover, Ning Fan did not know why, but when he held this dagger, he felt a sense of resonance with his divine spirit bloodline. It was extremely strange. Just as he was about to study the dagger carefully, the dagger suddenly turned into a ray of light and flew out of Ning Fan's palm. Ning Fan raised his hand to grab it, but his palm was cut open by the dagger. While he was stunned for a moment, the dagger had already taken the chance to escape. Ning Fan's eyes darkened slightly and stared at the wound on his palm. His crippled divine spirit body could even withstand an attack from an innate magic treasure. However, it was easily cut open by a beast tooth that was not even a magic treasure. This dark race sure has a deep foundation. Even a third tribulation immortal king has such a powerful divine weapon. It's really not something that the Eastern Heaven immortal king can compare to. I'm afraid that the immortal king that I just killed is not a nobody in the dark race. Unfortunately, Ning Fan did not ask for Tianqing's name because he was really not interested in the identity of a dead person. Everything has its own destiny. In the past, Senior taught me the Black Star art. Today, I will cremate Senior's corpse and free your body. Ning Fan did not put Tianqing's assassination in his heart. After keeping the heavenly sovereign's corpse, he breathed out a stream of flames that was made up of lightning and fire, burning the corpse into ashes. Then, he carefully kept the ashes, preparing to hand them over to Mu Weiliang after he returns. After doing all these, Ning Fan left in a flash and continued to hunt the geniuses of the dark race. He did not know that there was a beast-like gaze secretly observing him at this moment. In another world that was connected to the Dark Continent, an Yuanshan was lying in a black coffin and asked a young man with dog ears outside the coffin. Black Rope, what do you think of this prey? Is he worthy to be your enemy? The young man whose name was Black Rope was naked from the waist up. He wore a beast-skin skirt and a necklace made of dog teeth around his neck. His long hair was braided and hung down to his waist. He had a pair of black dog ears. His skin was dark. He squatted on the ground like a dog and played with the bloody beast-toothed dagger in his hand. His expression was lazy. He's not strong enough. Even though he has the chi of a demigod like me, he's too weak. He's not qualified for me to bite him to death. Hee. I know you don't think highly of this young man. But you should know that you're representing me in this battle. You should know that I want to defeat ancient chaos at least once no matter what. The reason I sent those juniors is just to test this young man's strength and give you a reference. It's better if this young man is weak. Only when he's weak can I win against him once. I can't understand the thoughts of weaklings. However, if this young man doesn't show enough value, I won't make a move. How troublesome. In order to make you interested in this young man, I have to sacrifice even more juniors. They're just a bunch of trash. If they die, it means that their existence is worthless. Black Rope no longer paid attention to Yuanshan. He swallowed the beast-toothed dagger and lay down on the ground to sleep. The suppressive force around him was actually similar to that of a 9-tribulation immortal emperor. However, it should be known that Black Rope was only a 5-tribulation immortal king. Ancient Chaos, I've never been as good as you. However, this disciple of mine is definitely 1,000 times better than yours. He's a first-generation demigod. Under my nourishment, he's almost as good as a deity's body in the legends. Even though that disciple of yours also has the power of a god, he's a demigod whose bloodline has been diluted for many generations. You've been suppressing me all your life, but there's still one thing that you're not as good as me. Chapter 1105. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed since Ning Fan entered the Dark Continent. During these 10 days, Ning Fan had killed more than 3,000 elites of the Dark Race. Among the 100 seedlings of the Dark Race alone, 70 to 80 of them were killed by him. The remaining prodigies of the Dark Race finally experienced Ning Fan's terrifying strength. As the prodigies of the Dark Race, they had always been proud and arrogant. However, they had to admit that Ning Fan was already invincible among those of the same generation below the Immortal Emperor realm. No one was a match for him. No matter how well prepared they were no match for Ning Fan under the absolute difference in strength. During these 10 days, other than Yin Luo Sha who used the broken corpse of the Heavenly Sovereign Realm to force Ning Fan to activate his cross-shaped halo, the rest of the young members of the Dark Race could not even force Ning Fan to use his full strength. Whenever they encounter Ning Fan, they would be killed in just a few rounds. Gradually, some of them realized that participating in this hunt was a huge mistake. Hence, during these 10 days, there would be prodigies of the Dark Race who had no choice but to give up on this hunt after weighing the pros and cons. They would leave the Dark Continent and return to the headquarters of the Dark Race. The Great Dark Heaven. The progenitor of the Dark Race, and Yuanchen, had once opened up a strange world on the Dark Continent when he was young and named it the Great Dark Heaven. It was the place where the Dark Race thrived for generations. On the Dark Continent, there were more than 10 hidden dark doors that were connected to the Great Dark Heaven. Because the coordinates of the dark doors were constantly changing, only the cultivators of the Dark Race could sense the real-time location of those doors with their bloodline. Therefore, even if ordinary people enter the Dark Continent, they would not be able to find the entrance of the Dark Race. Every time a prodigy of the Dark Race returned to the Great Dark Heaven through the Dark Door, Ning Fan would carefully observe the location of those dark doors. He noticed that the coordinates of those dark doors were constantly changing. He also noticed that this change actually followed a certain pattern. It was the pattern of the Great Tao of Dark. Even though Ning Fan did not have the bloodline of the Dark Race, he had cultivated the Dark Yin-Yang Tao. If he wanted to, he could also find the location of the dark doors and go to the Great Dark Heaven privately. 10 days had passed. There were only 40 to 50 cultivators of the Dark Race who were still pursuing Ning Fan on the Dark Continent. The rest of them had either escaped or were killed by Ning Fan. The remaining old monsters of the Dark Race were all immortal kings or immortal emperors. All of them were elites among the same level as them. Moreover, even celestial king old monsters rarely moved about alone anymore. They usually formed groups of 3 to 5 and cooperated seamlessly. In that case, it would not be easy for Ning Fan to kill these immortal kings of the Dark Race. Unless he expended the power of his mind and activated the cross-shaped halo, he wouldn't be able to achieve the magnificent feat of instantly killing several celestial kings. But he did not do so. It was because up until now, there were a total of 11 immortal emperors of the Dark Race chasing after him on the Dark Continent. Among them, there were 4 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperors, 3 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperors, 2 8th Tribulation Immortal Emperors and 2 9th Tribulation Immortal Emperors. Those immortal emperors were his true enemies. These immortal emperors were not in a hurry to fight Ning Fan to the death. Instead, they appeared from time to time like shadows and launched a sneak attack on Ning Fan. The cultivators of the Dark Tribe were all experts in assassination, and so were the immortal emperors. With so many immortal emperors plotting against him, no matter how powerful Ning Fan's senses were, it was inevitable for him to be careless and let them succeed once or twice. In the darkness, Ning Fan flew across continents one after another. His body was giving off a strong smell of blood. There were some injuries on his body, but they were not serious. He looked a little tired, but he was not exhausted. He had been holding back his strength, trying to use the least amount of strength to kill the most enemies. It was because this was a battle with no time limit. If he did not die, and Yuanshan would let this hunt go on forever. He did not know how long this hunt would last. Being in a state of constant killing without rest or sleep consumed a lot of his mind. This was quite disadvantageous to him. After 10 days of continuous killing, some doubts gradually arose in his mind. During these 10 days, I always felt that there was a hidden gaze locked on me. It gave me a very strong sense of danger. If it was only once or twice, I could still treat it as an illusion. However, in the past few days, I clearly felt that the gaze no longer bothered to conceal itself. Instead, it was completely exposed. It was like a wild beast looking at its prey. It gradually gained battle intent and aggressiveness. Every time I kill a 4 tribulation or 5 tribulation immortal king, the heat contained in the gaze would rise. That gaze that was gradually filled with battle intent, did not come from the darkness continent, but from the headquarters of the dark race. There's one thing that I don't understand. If an Yuanshan wants a fair battle, there shouldn't be any immortal emperors involved. If he doesn't want a fair battle, he could send a quasi-saint realm expert to assassinate me at any time. Why would he wait for me to come to him? This ancestor of the dark race kept saying that he wants to defeat the successor of ancient chaos in a fair battle. Does he really mean it? If he means it, this battle has already lost its fairness since there are already immortal emperors involved in it. Even if the dark race gathers the strength of immortal emperors and kills me in the end, will that an Yuanshan really be satisfied and die in peace? Is he deceiving himself and others? Or is there something that I don't know about in this battle? On the 13th day, Ning Fan found an opportunity to kill a 5th tribulation immortal king and severely injure the other 2 4th tribulation immortal kings in the team. If it weren't for the 2 immortal emperors nearby who came to his rescue in just a few breaths, he would probably have killed the other 2 4th tribulation immortal kings as well. Without activating the cross-shaped halo, Ning Fan was not confident that he could fight against 2 immortal emperors at the same time. Moreover, if he drags on for too long, there would be other immortal emperors who would come after him. Thus, he naturally would not continue to fight. As soon as he succeeded in killing the 2 immortal emperors, he immediately fled 1,000 li away. With his speed, which was far beyond that of an immortal emperor, he easily got rid of the 2 immortal emperors and continued to wait for an opportunity. What was worth mentioning was that after killing the 5th tribulation immortal king, Ning Fan clearly felt that the beastly gaze which was locked onto him became even more intense. On the 17th day, Ning Fan found another opportunity to kill the 2 lone immortal emperors. The beastly gaze which was hidden in the dark was scorching hot. On the 24th day, Ning Fan found an opportunity. With the power of several innate magic treasures, he beat up an immortal emperor of the dark race who was careless until he coughed out blood. Then, he spent some of his concentration to activate the cross-shaped halo which lasted for 12 breaths and destroyed the physical body of that immortal emperor. This was the biggest victory he had ever achieved since he came to the dark race. This ambush almost scared the immortal emperor of the dark race to death. Unfortunately, the other 2 immortal emperors quickly used the ability of interdomain teleportation and rescued the primordial spirit of the immortal emperor who had lost his physical body from a great distance away. Ning Fan was extremely familiar with this method of interdomain rescue as if he had practiced it countless times before the final battle. As a result, he was unable to kill that immortal emperor in the end. Although the cross-shaped halo was strong, it did not mean that it did not have any weaknesses. If there were Immortal Emperor realm old monsters who were well prepared in advance to save the Immortal Emperor from a great distance, the cross-shaped halo would not be able to take the Immortal Emperor's life. In this battle, Ning Fan had confirmed two things. Firstly, the Immortal Emperors of the Dark Race were well prepared against the cross-shaped halo. If Ning Fan was facing a single Sixth Tribulation Immortal Emperor, it would not be difficult for him to kill him. However, if 11 Immortal Emperors of the Dark Race worked together to save each other, it would be almost impossible for him to kill an Immortal Emperor. Secondly, there was indeed a beastly gaze which was locked onto him from the dark. This was the first time Ning Fan had confirmed this fact. When Ning Fan successfully destroyed the physical body of the Immortal Emperor, an excited howl of a wolf suddenly resounded across the entire Dark Continent. Strong winds blew. Countless howls formed into sound rings which clashed on the main road. Some of the immortal kings of the Dark Race were directly shaken by the sound rings, causing their eardrums to bleed. Their faces turned pale with fright. Even the immortal emperors of the Dark Race felt their heads buzzing and their expressions changed slightly. The howl of the wolf was not made by an immortal emperor. However, the pressure that it brought to Ning Fan was similar to that of the 2 Tribulation Immortal Emperors of the Dark Race. Under the impact of the sound rings, even Ning Fan felt a slight pain in his sea of consciousness. He was shocked because there was actually a cultivator who was not an immortal emperor in the Dark Race whose strength was comparable to a 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperor. Ning Fan had a proud and aloof personality, but he was never arrogant. He admitted that he could not be compared to the owner of the wolf howl. The strength of the other party was comparable to a 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperor. Ning Fan could not be compared to him. Judging from the chi of the other party, he was a 5 Tribulation Immortal King. The reason why he was stronger than Ning Fan was because he had the advantage of cultivation base. If Ning Fan was also a 5 Tribulation Immortal King, he was confident that he would not be weaker than this person. However, his divine, demon and devil cultivation base had not truly stepped into the eternal ancient realm yet. Out of the 4 elements, only one of them had stepped into the eternal immortal venerable realm. He was indeed not a match for this person. Of course, it would be a lie to say that he did not feel a sense of defeat. However, what he felt more was his battle intent. All along, Ning Fan had never met an opponent of the same generation as him. Perhaps this mysterious immortal king was one of them. The howl of the wolf came and went as fast as it came. The immortal kings of the Dark Race did not seem to know where the howl came from. However, the expressions of the 11 immortal emperors changed instantly. Obviously, they knew the origin of the howl. There were even a few immortal emperors who blurted out because they were too shocked. "It's that monster's howl. Has he awakened from his slumber again? No wonder. No wonder the old ancestor would arrange this decisive battle. I'm afraid he has already calculated the time when that monster will awaken. Could it be that the old ancestor wants this monster to kill the successor of ancient chaos? But that monster's murderous nature is too strong. It doesn't differentiate between friend and foe. If it really attacks, I'm afraid our race will face a catastrophe." Those immortal emperors who were muttering to themselves naturally did not expect that their words would be heard by Ning Fan's boundless rain sense. With Ning Fan's wisdom, he suddenly understood all the doubts he had about this decisive battle after combining the words of those immortal emperors. Could it be that in Yuanshan's arrangement of a few thousand people to hunt me down was just a pretense, and the so-called fair duel was actually a battle between 2 successors, and not a chaotic battle like it is now? The successor of ancient chaos is me. Could it be that the successor of Dark Ancestor is the person from Lang's howl? The person from Lang's howl did not pay much attention to me in the beginning. However, as my achievements became more and more outstanding, his battle intent towards me became stronger and stronger. Just a moment ago, he finally could not suppress his battle intent and let out an excited howl. If that's the case, it makes sense now. No wonder I felt that there was something strange about this decisive battle. So that's why, the person from Lang's howl looked down on me in the beginning. He even felt that it was beneath him to fight me. Because of that, and Yuanchen purposely set up a trap by displaying my strength to this person to lure him into a fight. He. A 5 tribulation immortal king fighting against me, an immortal venerate of the ancient times. Even though this person still has a certain advantage in terms of cultivation base, it's still considered fair on the whole. 5 tribulation immortal king. What a 5 tribulation immortal king. He's the first person who looks down on me to such an extent among those at the same level as him. According to an Yuanchen's script, after I display enough strength, it will be the person from Lang's Howl's turn to fight me one-on-one. What an Yuanchen wants is true fairness. I can even be sure that before the battle begins, an Yuanchen will give me sufficient time to recover my mental state, magic power and injuries to their optimal state. What he wants is to truly defeat his master, Ancient Chaos's successor, who is at his peak condition. He doesn't want to resort to trickery. Of course, if I'm besieged and killed by the immortal emperors of the dark race, it means that I'm not qualified to fight against that person from Lang's Howl at all. Ning Fan smiled. It was ridiculous that he thought that an Yuanchen valued him so much. It turned out that the other party did not value him at all. Instead, he had been looking down on him from the very beginning with a sense of superiority. I actually need to be qualified to fight against the successor of the Dark Ancestor. I still need to prove my strength through a chaotic battle involving thousands of people. It was no wonder that an Yuanchen's disciple was indeed powerful. He had the right to be arrogant. A 5 tribulation immortal king could fight against a 9 tribulation immortal emperor. Ning Fan knew that he could not do that. If this matter was just about his personal honor, he would not mind losing to his opponent. After all, his life had never been smooth sailing and it was not like he had never experienced failure before. Losing would make him feel defeated. However, it would also serve as a warning to motivate him to move forward. However, this battle was not as simple as his personal honor. If he loses this battle, it would not be his own face that he would lose. It would be the face of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos had been domineering throughout his life. He had fought against the Dark Ancestor for thousands of times and had never tasted defeat. Could it be that I have to tarnish his reputation? Perhaps, the Dark Ancestor had already determined that Ning Fan would lose to that person from Lang's Howl. He had even made fun of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos countless times for not choosing a good disciple. Moreover, the Dark Ancestor had already set up a script. As long as Ning Fan continued to walk forward step by step, he would eventually obtain the qualification to fight against the so-called successor of the Dark Ancestor. In the end, he would be defeated. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with arrogance. He had never been a respectful person. He was also not a person who would act according to common sense. Why should he follow the Dark Ancestor script? Since the Dark Ancestor wanted to defeat him fair and square, he would also give him a fair and square counterattack. He would not hold back anymore. He wanted to let the Dark Ancestor know that the name of the Ancient Chaos was not to be underestimated. Previously, I had been holding back because I couldn't figure out the Dark Ancestor's true intent. That's why I've always been on guard. But now, I'm going to use my full strength. If the reason why the chaotic battle lasted for 24 days is just to let me obtain the qualification to fight against the successors of both parties, then I will let you, and Yuanchen, see if I, Ning Fan, the successor of the Ancient Chaos, am qualified to fight against you, the successor of the Dark Ancestor. After 24 days of hunting and killing, Ning Fan had already memorized the landscape of the millions of dark continents in his heart. There were 48 experts of the dark races who were still alive, including the immortal emperor whose physical body he had destroyed. Ning Fan had also found out the characteristics of each of their abilities through the repeated battles. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness. All of a sudden, he formed a hand seal with his 10 fingers and squatted down. Then, he pressed his palm heavily on the dark ground. The ancient formation mark that contained the light of the Big Dipper appeared on the ground with a magnificent aura. In an instant, it mobilized all the water elemental power in the world. Blood-colored waves surged out from the formation mark. The salty sea breeze blew across the entire dark continent. The speed of the waves was unimaginably fast. It was as if Ning Fan could directly summon the ocean as long as his rain sense covered the land. In an instant, millions of dark continents were submerged in the ocean. Not a trace of land could be seen anymore. The landscape changed. Ning Fan stood in midair above the sea of blood, as if he had become the emperor of water. He could feel that he was resonating with the seawater of the Big Dipper boundless sea. He could feel that if he uses the water-flooding world bottle in such an oceanic terrain, he could borrow the water elemental power of the boundless sea to unleash the might of the water-flooding world bottle several times. The seawater of the water-flooding world bottle came from the Purple Dipper immortal domain of the defying mortal sea, while the seawater of the boundless sea came from the Big Dipper immortal domain. The two of them were originally enemies. Today, however, because of Ning Fan's special identity, they coexisted and cooperated with each other. Oh! This young man summoned the Big Dipper boundless sea. It seems like this young man is going to use water techniques to fight us. In the Tao of water, there are very few offensive techniques. Instead, there are mostly healing techniques, illusion techniques and trapping techniques. Since this young man summoned the boundless sea, we must be on guard. Although the old monsters of the dark race said that they must be on guard, none of them actually cared about the boundless sea wave. Everyone in the world knew that the Shadi in the past could summon a bloody storm and increase the offensive power of the water element. However, there were only a few people who could truly prove their Tao with water and look down on the world. None of the Shadi in the past had proven their Tao with water. No one thought that Ning Fan would use any decent water attack. Thus, they needed to be on guard. The remaining 48 old monsters of the dark race all rushed towards Ning Fan's location, including the immortal emperor whose physical body was destroyed. He did not retreat from the battlefield because his physical body was destroyed because of the strength of his primordial spirit. Instead, his eyes were filled with hatred. He wanted to take revenge on Ning Fan for the destruction of his physical body. The appearance of the boundless sea made Ning Fan's perception of the rain clearer and more accurate. He could clearly sense many figures, some near and some far away, rushing towards his location to kill. He could feel the disdain on the faces of the old monsters of the dark race. It was a kind of innate superiority that was carved in their bones. Ning Fan stood on the surface of the sea and raised the water-flooding bottle high up. At this moment, he activated the cross-shaped halo. In the past, even when he activated the 30% power of the water-flooding bottle, he could only do it with great difficulty. His performance of the water-flooding heaven and earth was not perfect. This time, however, it was different. It was the first time he used the water-flooding bottle under the condition that the cross-shaped halo was activated. He did not have to worry about the lack of magic power, he did not have to worry about the terrifying backlash from the bottle, he did not have to activate the God-exterminating shield to defend against the backlash. It was not necessary, his physical body exploded into black shadows again and again. Each time, he neutralized the backlash from the water-flooding bottle. Boundless magic power was borrowed from heaven and earth, from the mountains and seas and from the hands of all living beings in the world. All of them were poured into the water-flooding bottle. Beneath his feet was the boundless Big Dipper sea that had drowned millions of continents. The skies suddenly sparkled with the light of water. Unknowingly, the sky had turned into an upside-down ocean. It was the Purple Dipper defying Earth Ocean. Another ocean? Even the sky has turned into an ocean. All the old monsters of the dark race who were rushing towards them were surprised and their faces were filled with disdain. However, when the seawater fell from the sky like raindrops and hit the faces of those old monsters of the dark race, an immortal king was caught off guard and his teeth were broken by a mere raindrop. An immortal emperor's face was swollen by a mere raindrop due to his carelessness. A drop of water was as heavy as a mountain. If the entire sea was submerged, what kind of heaven-destroying and earth-destroying scene would that be? If the ocean is submerged in the sky, the entire world will be annihilated. This. Could it be? It's the water-flooding bottle. It's the item that made the great water-flooding emperor famous. Why does this kid have this item? Damn it! Once this treasure is activated, the entire world will be submerged and everyone will be killed indiscriminately. It's useless even if we have more people. Let's go. All the old monsters of the dark race turn pale. Even the expression of the ancestor of the dark race, and Yuanchen, changed drastically at this moment, let alone the old monsters of the dark race. It's actually the water-flooding bottle. This kid actually has such an item. In the great dark heaven, and Yuanchen's expression suddenly changed. Several quasi-saints of the dark race were equally shocked. Even dog-eared Black Rope showed a hint of astonishment. Then, his eyes were filled with bloodthirsty battle intent. At this moment, and Yuanchen felt that he had miscalculated. Since Ning Fan arrived, and Yuanchen had been acting high and mighty. It was because no matter what Ning Fan did, it was all within his calculations. He disdained to plot against Ning Fan. However, he was also confident that Ning Fan would always be under his control and he would never be able to escape from his grasp. However, reality slapped his face. Who would have thought that Ning Fan would actually have a mid-grade innate magic treasure? Moreover, it was a fierce magic treasure that could kill indiscriminately in an entire world. The reputation of this treasure was too resounding. It was impossible for anyone who had some understanding of the history of the Devil Conferral Summit not to know about its existence. This treasure was even qualified to be a trump card of a quasi-saint. However, it was actually in Ning Fan's hands. And Yuanchen's eyes turned slightly gloomy. He thought to himself that Ning Fan was really shrewd. He actually never showed such a powerful magic treasure to anyone. No one knew about it. That was why he had made a slight miscalculation. The script was disrupted. Retreat. Everyone, retreat to the great dark heaven. It was in Yuanchen's deep voice that spread across the entire dark continent in an instant. Even though he was cold and indifferent and did not care about the lives and deaths of his descendants, he did not want the peak combat power of the Dark Clan to be reduced too much. However, this order came a little too late. The location of the dark door that connected to the great dark heaven was constantly changing. Moreover, there were only a dozen or so dark doors in the millions of continents. The 48 old monsters on the scene were extremely far away from the dark door. None of them had the time to escape from the dark continent before the waves engulfed them. As Ning Fan made a hand seal, the sea in the sky and the sea on the ground suddenly underwent a drastic change. The sea in the sky turned into countless evil water dragons and rushed towards the ground furiously. The sea on the ground also turned into countless water dragons and rose up to the sky furiously. Hundreds of billions of giant water dragons were biting and killing each other between the two seas. In the past, the water-drowning world bottle attack was from the sky to the ground and there was no transformation of the water dragons. However, this time, because there was a boundless sea on the ground, Ning Fan had a new idea. He made the sea on the ground also rise towards the sky and he even added the attack of the water dragons into it. In this way, there was no way for them to escape. Both the rebellious mortal sea and the boundless sea were roaring. The eardrums of all the old monsters of the Dark Clan were bleeding because of Gu Hai's angry roar. Then, they were drowned in the waves. Extremity of water, boundless sea defying. Green light flashed in Ning Fan's eyes. Under the enlightenment of the unity of heaven and man, he indifferently uttered the new name of this attack. Boundless sea defying. It's the rebellious mortal sea and also the boundless sea. It was not a type of ability but a special water attack that was formed by combining a type of ability with a magic treasure. Its destructive power was a few times greater than the water-drowning world bottle alone. It was a special attack that even Ning Fan himself knew how to attack indiscriminately. In the past, when Ning Fan drowned a world with water, he could use the water drowning bottle to avoid the water and eventually stood on the surface of the sea. This time, however, Ning Fan himself was also drowned by the heaven and earth oceans. He had truly developed the indiscriminate attack to the extreme. It was a divine ability that even the user of the attack knew how to attack. Only then could the enemy not have the slightest chance of escaping without any loopholes. Some of the immortal emperors of the Dark Clan were greatly shocked. They quickly hid inside their dimensional treasures. However, the moment they entered the dimensional treasures, they were flooded by seawater. The entire dimensional treasures that they escaped into were drowned and then collapsed. Some of the immortal emperors of the Dark Clan tried to use the water escape technique to escape. However, their bodies were crushed by the heavy waves the moment they squeezed into the gaps between the waves. Some of the immortal emperors of the Dark Clan wielded their innate treasure swords, trying to cut the waves apart and escape. However, the dignified innate treasure swords actually cracked under the pressure of the waves, rendering their attacks ineffective. Even the immortal emperors of the Dark Clan were at a loss in the face of this attack that could drown a world, let alone those immortal kings. Under the attack of boundless sea defying, they basically had no power to resist. Even though they tried their best to protect themselves, they were still drowned in the waves one after another. In the deep sea, Ning Fan, who had secretly activated the god-destroying giant, was bobbing up and down in the waves. If he does not activate the god-destroying giant and only uses the cross-shaped halos, Ning Fan reckoned that he might really drown in the waves and become a laughing stock who was instantly killed by his own abilities. He could only blame the terrifying destructive power of this indiscriminate attack. It forced Ning Fan to activate his defense to the maximum, not daring to be careless. Luckily, other people's spirit sense could not enter the deep sea. Ning Fan was also confident that an Yuanshan would not notice the existence of his heaven-opening divine tool. Hence, there was no harm in using the god-destroying giant. A long, long time passed, the seawater of the defying world boundless sea gradually disappeared. What appeared in front of Ning Fan was the dark continent that was riddled with thousands of holes. That kind of dilapidated scene was like a young wife who had been ravaged by a tyrant. Occasionally, corpses that had been squeezed into meat paste could be seen on the land that looked like ruins. There were a total of 43 corpses. In other words, there were at least 5 of them who had not been drowned. If there were immortal emperors whose physical bodies were destroyed and their primordial spirits managed to escape, there would probably be more survivors. As expected, when the seawater dispersed bit by bit, figures in a sorry state tore through heaven and earth and revealed themselves one after another. There were 5 immortal emperors whose physical bodies were not destroyed. However, all of them were severely injured and their chi was weak. They looked at Ning Fan as if they were looking at a ghost with uncontrollable anger and fear. There were 4 immortal emperors whose physical bodies were destroyed and only their primordial spirits managed to escape. In other words, there were 2 immortal emperors who were directly drowned to death, right? This result is really not bad. One should know that each of the immortal emperors here had made ample preparations for this hunt. Which one of them did not have a few life-saving methods? Being able to kill 2 immortal emperors under such harsh conditions was enough to prove Ning Fan's strength. Moreover, it was different from when he used the drowning world bottle in the past. After using it, Ning Fan did not fall into a state where his magic power was depleted and he was not severely injured. Because he used the bottle under the effect of the cross-shaped halo, his magic power was still full. Thus, the injuries he suffered from the backlash were not too serious. Of course, there were still some light injuries. If he uses the defying world boundless sea bottle for the second time, those light injuries would turn into serious injuries. Damn it. Old Man and Kong did not manage to escape. He was drowned by this little bastard. He deserves to die. This little bastard deserves to die. There's also Yin Xiu. He did not manage to escape as well. Originally, he would have become a 7 tribulation immortal emperor in a few million years' time. He was the pillar of our clan. However, he was also killed by this little bastard. How despicable. 37 Immortal Kings. 37 immortal kings were actually killed by this little bastard in just a single move. I'm not convinced. Humph. This little bastard must have suffered a severe backlash after using that kind of attack. He must be in a weakened state right now. It's time for us to kill him. Kill him and we'll split the old ancestors' reward equally. Kill him. The 9 great sovereigns of the dark race were filled with killing intent. In an instant, they launched countless attacks at Ning Fan. Ning Fan did not take their attacks head-on. With a sway of his body, he directly evaded all of their attacks with his speed. Facing the 9 great sovereigns from afar, he sneered and raised the drowning world bottle high up. Who told you that I'm in a weakened state right now? The 9 great sovereigns were shocked. They thought that Ning Fan had only drowned once and he had already killed 37 immortal kings and 2 immortal emperors. Moreover, he had severely injured all of them. If he drowns them a second time, a few more great sovereigns would be buried under the sea. This is bad. Let's go. The 9 great sovereigns' faces turned pale with fright. Tacitly, they tore open a giant dark door behind them and stepped into it. Because they were extremely afraid of Ning Fan, these few immortal emperors had already sealed one of the dark doors in front of them and moved it behind them. They were afraid that if Ning Fan still had the strength to attack again, they would be able to escape at the first moment. It would not be like the previous time where they had no way to escape and could only face his attacks head-on. Although they managed to escape, their panicked state was a little unsightly. On one side were 9 dignified immortal sovereigns while the other side was just a mere immortal venerate. 9 great sovereigns were afraid of an immortal venerate like a tiger. If this matter were to spread out, it would certainly bring shame to the dark race. In this battle, Ning Fan had fought against the entire secret race alone. However, the result was a complete victory. In this battle, the dark race had lost 2 immortal sovereigns, 74 immortal kings and more than 4,000 immortal sense fragments. Even a race as strong as the dark race had suffered a great deal of damage to their vitality. Looking at the 9 great sovereigns of the dark race who were fleeing into the dark door in panic, Ning Fan smiled coldly. He kept the water-submerged bottle and stepped into the door. He disdained to follow Dark Ancestor's script. He wanted to break into the great dark heaven and declare war against the heavens. The moment Ning Fan stepped into the great dark heaven, the 9 great sovereigns of the dark race exclaimed in shock. Damn it! This brat actually chased after us. Stop him. We can't let him flood a world in the great dark heaven. If he starts a massacre here, all the low-grade cultivators of our dark race will be slaughtered by him alone. We must stop him even if we have to die. Ning Fan frowned. He was too lazy to care about the panicked words of the 9 immortal sovereigns. Do I look like such a bloodthirsty person? Does he want to annihilate an entire clan without mercy? Putting aside whether Dark Ancestor looked down on him or not, at least he had invited him to battle openly. He did not assassinate him or his close relatives, right? Based on this point alone, Ning Fan would not kill the descendants of Dark Ancestor indiscriminately in the dark race. If he sets a precedent and Dark Ancestor retaliates with the same method, how would he be able to protect his close relatives? Even though they were enemies, it was a form of respect and tacit understanding that only strong experts would have to not harm each other's innocent blood relatives. Everyone, don't worry. The battlefield that Dark Ancestor and I agreed on is the Dark Continent. On the continent, killing each other is a matter of course. Outside the battlefield, I won't kill indiscriminately. I still have this bit of magnanimity. Then why did you break into my great dark heaven? The 9 great sovereigns heaved a sigh of relief. However, they still stared at Ning Fan with hostility. 24 days ago, the way they looked at Ning Fan was the same way they looked at him. Now, however, they looked at Ning Fan as if they were looking at a monster. It was just like how they looked at the monster in their clan. Be it Ning Fan or Black Rope, both of them were monsters. Why? Of course, I'm here to cause trouble. Even though I disdain killing innocent people in your clan, I have always coveted the foundation of your clan. Ning Fan sneered. In a flash, he disappeared without a trace. His speed was so fast that the 9 immortal sovereigns could not keep up with him. The 9 immortal sovereigns were stunned. Then, they cursed at the direction where Ning Fan disappeared. This brat actually came to the great dark heaven to rob something. Stop him. We must stop him. However, can we stop him? With these 9 severely injured immortal sovereigns, it was impossible for them to catch up with Ning Fan's speed. With just a few leaps, Ning Fan had already reached the 19th day of the Great Dark Heaven. The Great Dark Heaven was the distribution structure of the 19 floors of the sky. The higher one went, the closer they would be to the center of power where Dark Ancestor was. The 19th floor belonged to the outer area of the Great Dark Heaven. There were very few cultivators stationed there. It was also one of the areas with the thinnest spiritual chi in the clan. Due to the thinness of spiritual chi, the dark race used this floor of the sky to plant a type of spiritual rice called divine recovery rice, instead of planting spiritual herbs. After all, spiritual rice did not have a high requirement for spiritual chi. Divine recovery rice was a type of rice-type spiritual plant. Even though it did not have a high requirement for the density of spiritual chi, it had a very high requirement for growing it. Usually, it would take millions of years for it to ripen. Consuming the divine recovery rice could not improve one's cultivation level, but it could restore the exhausted mental state of a cultivator. The exhaustion of mental state had always been difficult to recover. There were only a few heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures in the world that could greatly restore one's mental state. Therefore, even though all cultivators abstained from eating, they were still willing to consume this type of spiritual rice in order to recover their mental state. This item was extremely expensive in the Eastern Heaven because the divine recovery rice of the dark race was rarely sold to outsiders. In the Eastern Heaven, a single grain of divine recovery rice could be sold for 10 million Dao crystals. Ever since Ning Fan created the cross-shaped halo which consumed his mental state, he wanted to get some divine recovery rice to recover his mental state. Unfortunately, the few sources of divine recovery rice in the Eastern Heaven were all related to the dark race. Even if Ning Fan came knocking on their door, they were still unwilling to sell him divine recovery rice. They would rather destroy it. Good. Very good. In the past, you guys were unwilling to sell me divine recovery rice. Now, I'm here to harvest it myself. Then, here comes the question. How many kilograms of divine recovery rice can I harvest from these hundreds of mu of paddy fields? The corner of Ning Fan's mouth curved into a smile. He could spare the lives of ordinary people of the dark race, but he did not say that he would not plunder their resources. Since ancient times, it was very normal for the victors of wars to plunder the losers. He had defeated the encirclement of thousands of dark race cultivators. Shouldn't he collect some reparations? Who are you? You don't have the bloodline of the dark race. How can you enter the great dark black heaven? How dare you barge into my divine recovery rice field? A group of armored guards of the dark race noticed Ning Fan's arrival. All of them were shocked and surrounded him. They were just a group of void fragmentation realm guards. Ning Fan did not want to waste his breath on them. His eyes flashed with a demonic light and all the armored guards were controlled by Ning Fan. All of them stood blankly on the spot. In a flash, his shadow clones emerged from his body one after another. Tens of thousands of clones began to harvest the divine recovery rice crazily. What does it mean to nurture war with war? This is it. With this batch of divine recovery rice, Ning Fan could use the cross-shaped halo to his heart's content. From afar, the 9 immortal emperors chased after him in a panic. However, it was already too late. Ning Fan had already harvested all the divine recovery rice field. A palm-sized bag of rice appeared on his waist. The bag was filled with divine recovery rice. A single grain of divine recovery rice was worth 10 million Tao crystals. The loss of several hundred mu of divine recovery rice field was simply incalculable. Even a colossal being like the dark race could not bear such a loss. How dare you? Quickly hand over the divine recovery rice. Otherwise, we won't mind killing you right here. The 9 emperors shouted angrily. Killing? Do you think you can do it? Besides, don't you think you are a little too close to me? Ning Fan sneered. He grabbed a handful of divine recovery rice from the bag and stuffed it into his mouth. Then, the cross-shaped halo was activated. From now on, Ning Fan no longer needed to worry about not having enough mental strength until he finishes this bag of divine recovery rice. So what if you're from the dark race? If you have what it takes, come and stop me. The cross-shaped halo instantly spread to a distance of several thousand zhang. The 9 emperors were greatly shocked. They retreated desperately, trying to get out of the range of the cross-shaped halo. However, Ning Fan only took a step and appeared in the middle of the 9 emperors, enveloping all of them within the halo. The 9 immortal emperors, whether they had physical bodies or not, were all frozen on the spot. Cold chi rushed to their heads and their expressions changed drastically. At the moment when they were frozen, thousands of abilities appeared in the halo's domain out of nowhere and struck the bodies of each of the immortal emperors. Fortunately, all of the immortal emperors had their own methods. It was impossible for them to be restrained by Ning Fan's cross-shaped halo like what happened to Emperor Fushan and the others in the past. Each of them used their own mysterious methods and paid a price to get out of the range of the cross-shaped halo. Keep your distance. Coordinate with each other. Don't stand together. Immortal Emperor Guehua, who was at the 9 Tribulations realm, ordered coldly. Obviously, his words had the highest authority among these immortal emperors. When the other immortal emperors heard his order, they spread out in different directions, planning to join forces to kill Ning Fan. If the 9 emperors joined forces, Ning Fan firmly believed that he would not be a match for them. Thus, he did not want to waste time talking to them. As soon as they joined forces, he took out the water-submerged bottle again. His intention was obvious. If you want to kill me, I will drown the entire dark race. Es despicable. You said that you won't drown my race. Why did you take out this bottle again? The expressions of the immortal emperors of the dark race changed drastically. They knew that if Ning Fan was really forced into a dead end, a few of the 9 of them would probably die on the 19th day after he opened the water-submerged bottle. All of them immediately stopped attacking. They were afraid that they would anger Ning Fan. At the same time, they hated Ning Fan for snatching all the divine recovery rice. Their complicated feelings were really indescribable. Despicable? Hee hee. Even if I am despicable, what can you do to me? Ning Fan was too lazy to be entangled with these 9 emperors. He could not kill any of them under the situation where they joined forces. Unless he used the water-submerged bottle. Since he could not kill them, it would be a complete waste of time to fight them. Instead, it was better for him to snatch more things before the descendant of the Dark Ancestor arrived. He had already killed so many elites of the Dark race. Presumably, be it the Dark Ancestor or the descendant of the Dark Ancestor, none of them would dare to look down on him anymore. The reputation of the Dark Ancestor's descendant had already been established. There might be a great battle after this. If he could snatch more of the trump cards of the Dark Ancestor, his chances of winning would also increase, the descendant of the Dark Ancestor who was comparable to a 9 Tribulation immortal emperor. No matter how low his chances of winning this battle are, Ning Fan would not back down. He would not allow anyone to look down on his master. Even if the opponent was the Dark Ancestor who was a great cultivator from the ancient times, he would not allow it. Chapter 1106. The brief battle between Ning Fan and the immortal emperors was too powerful. It alerted all the cultivators of the dark race in the 19th heaven. Among them were the hunters who had retreated from the Dark Continent and the guards who guarded the divine rice field. However, most of them were the members of the lowest level of the Dark race. The cultivation world had a strict hierarchy. Even a huge being like the Dark race had its own hierarchy. The 19th heaven was a remote place. Tens of millions of low-level cultivators of the Dark race lived here. They did not care about the conflict between the Dark race and the successor of ancient chaos. They also did not care about the rumors in Eastern Heaven. The way they looked at Ning Fan was rarely filled with hatred. There was only confusion. Mother, who is that big brother? He's so handsome. He actually fought the immortal emperors of our race to a standstill. I also want to be like him. No one can stop me. I don't want to be like an ant and be trapped in the 19th heaven for the rest of my life. A child pointed at the sky and asked curiously. His eyes were sparkling with excitement. My son, don't talk nonsense. That person is a bad person. You can't learn from him. What is a bad person? A bad person is a bad person. Ning Fan continued to run at full speed. His rain sense covered the entire 19th heaven. Every grass, tree, cloud and soil appeared in his mind like a picture. He was not concerned about the hierarchy of the Dark race. He also disdained to kill those ordinary people who did not even know who he was. On the 19th heaven, the divine rice field was not the only thing worth plundering. Every grass and tree here was a rare treasure in Eastern Heaven. That inconspicuous Lien Feng was actually a good material for refining innate magic treasures. That calm lake bottom actually contained immortal treasures of the water element. Every single one of the exotic flowers and grasses that bloomed in the mountains and rivers was actually rare spiritual medicine. With 9 immortal emperors chasing after him, it was naturally impossible for Ning Fan to plunder all the resources in the 19th heaven. He only focused on advancing towards the 18th heaven. If he encountered something good along the way, he would only plunder the valuable ones. Therefore, wherever Ning Fan passed by, the immortal mountains were uprooted, the lakes and seas were drained of their spiritual liquid and the exotic flowers and grasses were all in a mess. The 9 immortal sovereigns gritted their teeth in anger. They wanted to stop Ning Fan from plundering the heavens but they could not catch up with him at all. They had only chased less than 1/3 of the way to the 18th heavenly layer but Ning Fan had already broken into it. There were dark realm gates between the 2 heavens. The dark realm gate on the 19th heaven was guarded by a second tribulation immortal venerable. At this moment, the celestial sovereign was being served by a few beautiful women as he basked in the moonlight and enjoyed the spirit tea as usual. Only when Ning Fan appeared like an ancient god of slaughter did the ancient immortal venerate lazily open his eyes and berated him. Who is it? How unruly! Don't you know that it is this Lord's resting time from dawn to dusk every day? I will definitely not open the dark realm gate and let anyone through. This Lord will only work at night. Men, take this man down and teach him the rules of the 19 heavens. The chubby face of the primordial immortal sovereign was filled with arrogance. After all, his elder was an immortal emperor of the dark race, so it didn't matter if he acted arrogantly. However, when he saw Ning Fan's face clearly, he swallowed all the words he was about to say. He nearly choked on the spirit tea he drank. Unlike those ordinary members of the dark race who did not care about the secular world, he recognized Ning Fan. It's you. Why are you in the dark heaven of my race? What are you trying to do? Don't you dare act recklessly. Otherwise, I don't mind. Noisy. Ning Fan frowned. His eyes that were filled with killing intent immediately swept across the primordial immortal venerable. Immediately, the primordial immortal venerable felt as if his eyes were pierced by tens of thousands of swords. He let out a muffled groan and spurted out a mouthful of blood. His heart was filled with extreme shock. Countless guards foamed at the mouth and fainted after being hit by Ning Fan's aura force. What kind of terrifying killing intent was this? After all, he was an immortal venerable. Even if he were to face an immortal emperor, he would not be so cowardly. However, in front of Ning Fan, he could not even look him in the eye. Is this, the legendary successor of ancient chaos? Didn't you see that Ning Fan's killing intent had increased to the next level after going through 24 days of killing in the Dark Continent? If he did not restrain his murderous aura, unless one was an ancient immortal venerable who had experienced the sea of blood for a long time, one would not even be able to look him in the eye. Ning Fan did not plan to kill too many people in the great dark heaven. Thus, he naturally could not be bothered with this immortal venerate who was guarding the entrance. Moreover, he didn't need this celestial venerable guarding the door to open the gate of the dark realm for him. This door was sturdy enough to stop ordinary celestial venerables and immortal kings, but it couldn't stop him. Even without activating the cross-shaped halo, Ning Fan could still borrow the power of the heaven and earth. With a grasp of his hand, the power of the heaven and earth in the surroundings frantically gathered towards him, becoming an endless source of magical power for Ning Fan. Then, the ancient demon mountain-breaking fist punched out, carrying with it a disdainful aura. Boom! A loud sound echoed throughout the 19 heavens. The 9 immortal emperors who were chasing Chen Fan cursed out loud. They couldn't catch up to him. They were powerless to stop Ning Fan from entering the 18 heavenly layers to plunder the treasures. When the 9 immortal sovereigns finally arrived at the 18th heavenly layer, Ning Fan had already rushed to the 16th. When the 9 emperors reached the 16th heavenly layer, Ning Fan had already ascended to the 10th heavenly layer. Countless immortal treasures were plundered by Ning Fan along the way. Among them, the most valuable ones were the ancient King Dao fruit tree in the 17th heaven. It ripens once every 5 million years and can produce 12 immortal King Dao fruits at a time. There was also the flying immortal pond in the 14th heaven. This pond could help a first-step immortal cultivator cleanse his marrow and increase his chances of becoming an immortal by 20%. Lastly, there was the incinerating cauldron in the 12th heaven. It was said that any magic treasures thrown into this cauldron could be melted into forging liquid and used to forge magic treasures of any grade. Any one of these items was a priceless item that could make a clan prosper. No matter how Ning Fan plundered, Dark Ancestor did not stop him. Ning Fan was not a fool. He certainly could guess why Dark Ancestor did not stop him from plundering the members of the Dark race. Because Dark Ancestor was confident. No matter how many things Ning Fan plundered, as long as he loses to the descendant of the Dark Ancestor in the end and dies in this place, he would be able to take back all the things he plundered in one go. Above the 10th heaven, an ancient puppet guarded the realm gate, exuding the powerful aura of a quasi-emperor. Even though this puppet was strong, it was killed after receiving Ning Fan's ancient devil mountain-breaking strike for around 200 consecutive strikes. The guardian general of the 8th heaven was a giant python that was in the dragon transformation stage. Once it succeeds, it would become another great emperor of the dark race. In the end, it was defeated by Ning Fan's 671st punch. Its snake eyes could only watch Ning Fan enter the 7th heaven, not daring to stop him. The guardian general of the 4th heaven was a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. He did not participate in the hunt of the Dark Continent as he had the responsibility of guarding the land. When Ning Fan arrived, he subdued the sovereign with a single blow using the cross-shaped halos. The sovereign's expression changed drastically. He directly used a secret technique to abandon his physical body and fled with his primordial spirit. The guardian general of the 3rd heaven was also a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. When he saw Ning Fan's arrival, his expression changed drastically and he fled without putting up a fight. Ning Fan plundered more and more immortal treasures. The ones that caught his attention were, the world-suppressing Mount Tai of the 10th heaven was a low-grade innate magic treasure with power that could sweep away all other low-grade innate magic treasures of the same level. The immemorial python skin of the 8th heaven could cure all the poisons in the world and could also be consumed to cultivate poison cultivation techniques. The Dark King Ming diagram of the 3rd heaven was actually an ancient diagram that recorded the abilities of the true world. The one with the most bountiful harvest was the second heaven. The first heaven was where Dark Ancestor was, and the second heaven was where the entire Dark Race's treasury was. All of the Dark Race's cultivation techniques, books, elixirs, and treasures were stored here. Of course, what was placed here was definitely something that Dark Ancestor himself didn't think highly of. It might not even be a necessity for immortal emperors to cultivate. However, to Ning Fan, the treasures in the vault were already priceless. They were exactly what he needed. There were more than 50,000 immeasurable pills, more than enough for him to break through to the 10,000 ancient immortal venerable realm. The Dark Race even had a stockpile of 800 million Een Sunwood, the rarest of the ingredients for the Infinity Pill. Ning Fan almost wanted to laugh out loud. How delightful! If he didn't attack the Dark Race, how many immortal emperor forces would he need to plunder to obtain enough immeasurable pills to break through to the eternal immortal realm? 500 immeasurable pills were enough to create an ancient immortal venerable. 50,000 pills were enough to create 100 immortal venerables. As expected of the Dark Race. Only the Dark Race would hoard such a large number of infinity pills and use them as strategic resources. What a pity, from now on, these immeasurable pills would all belong to Ning Fan. When Ning Fan plundered everything in the second heaven, countless cultivators of the Dark Race cursed angrily. However, no one dared to stop him. Ning Fan flew all the way to the gate of the second heaven. It was the entrance to the first heaven. The guards there had already retreated to the first heaven. 5 old men with vast chi were standing there. These 5 old men gave off different degrees of perfection chi. Each of them was blessed with luck, and 8 colored rays of light shot into the sky. All of them were quasi-saints. Each of them was glaring at Ning Fan angrily, wanting to kill him as soon as possible. Among them was Entiendo, a quasi-saint whom Ning Fan had met before. However, they could not do anything because Dark Ancestor forbade them. They could not understand Dark Ancestor's obsession to defeat ancient chaos no matter what. They only knew that if they touched Ning Fan on their own, Dark Ancestor would certainly kill them in a fit of rage. Even their identity as quasi-saints would not be able to save them. Dark Ancestor was such a cold and heartless existence. The gazes of the 5 quasi-saints were as bright as the heavens. They swept over Ning Fan with their heavenly might. Even someone as strong as Ning Fan could not stand steadily and almost fell from the sky. He gritted his teeth and his eyes were filled with arrogance. Stepping on golden flames, he took a step forward and forcefully neutralized the aura force of the 5 quasi-saints using the secret word, force, causing their faces to turn even darker. However, a chuckle came from behind the 5 quasi-saints. It seemed like the person was very satisfied with Ning Fan neutralizing the aura force of the 5 quasi-saints. It was a young man with dog ears. His eyes were filled with arrogance. He walked out from behind the 5 quasi-saints. Every step he took actually caused the law of darkness in heaven and earth to respond to him. The Dark Sovereign. He was a 5 tribulation immortal king, but he already knew the power of the Dark Sovereign like the back of his hand. His combat power was almost on par with a 9 tribulation great emperor. Moreover, he was not an ordinary great emperor but a sovereign great emperor. You are the successor of ancient chaos, aren't you? I finally get to meet you. You are not bad. By the way, what's your name, Ning? Ning Fan frowned. You are not bad. This was a compliment that a superior would only use to a subordinate. What's your name? I've caused a ruckus in the Dark Race, but this young man actually doesn't even remember my name. How disdainful. How disdainful. This young man should be the successor of the Dark Ancestor. The battle that was supposed to happen has finally arrived. Countless second heavenly layer Dark Race cultivators were paying close attention to the upcoming battle. More and more cultivators of the Dark Race gathered at this place. Their battle cries shook the heavens. 5 saints, please take action and kill the successor of ancient chaos. Divine venerables, please take action and kill the successor of ancient chaos. The glory of the dark race shall not be blasphemed. Those who offend our dark race shall be hunted and killed by the myriad worlds. Kill! 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 The young immortal king suddenly frowned. His eyes flashed with killing intent. With a flash, he disappeared without a trace. In a flash, he returned to his original spot. There were hundreds of primordial spirits in his hand. They were strung together by the Tao of darkness. At this moment, hundreds of true immortals of the dark race were killed by the young immortal king. After killing them and seizing their primordial spirits, the young immortal king even devoured them one by one. All of a sudden, the surrounding cultivators of the dark race kept quiet out of fear. They did not dare to shout anymore. This young man is actually eating the primordial spirits of his companions. Ning Fan's frown deepened. He had done many cannibalistic things in his life. However, he would never do it to his companions. He would only treat his enemies cruelly and mercilessly. However, the young man in front of him did not have such scruples at all. The way he looked at the surrounding cultivators of the dark race was as if he was looking at his food. How cold and indifferent. It was as if he was looking at pigs and dogs. This kind of indifference gave Ning Fan a strange feeling. It was as if there was something on this young man that was similar to him. Divine venerables, please don't kill our people for the sake of food. The 5 dark saints were displeased, but they did not dare to scold the young immortal king loudly. The young immortal king ignored the 5 saints. He licked the blood on his lips and said indifferently, "All right, I'm full. Don't interfere. I'll kill this junior." Even though he looked like a young man, his bone age was millions of years old. It was not inappropriate for him to address Ning Fan as a junior. Even though he was not considered as an old man among the cultivators at the same level as him, Ning Fan was too young. Every time the young man took a step forward, the great Tao of darkness beneath his feet would form ripples that reverberated between heaven and earth. Ning Fan felt an unprecedented pressure from this young man. That kind of pressure was something that even the 2 divine void emperors could not give him. From this young man, Ning Fan felt the same pressure that he felt when he first met the 7th slaying emperor. Could it be that this young man's combat power was already comparable to the 7th slaying emperor? Could he win this battle? Ning Fan did not know whether he could win or not. All he knew was that he could not and would not run away from this battle. "My name is Black Rope." "You are so weak." The young man who was called Black Rope was approaching Ning Fan step by step. However, his voice suddenly came from behind Ning Fan for some reason. Without giving Ning Fan the time to turn his head, the young man's sharp claws had already pierced into Ning Fan's back. Blood splattered everywhere as he violently grabbed Ning Fan's primordial spirit. Then, he crushed Ning Fan's primordial spirit, causing blood to splatter everywhere. It turned out that the real Black Rope had already snuck behind Ning Fan without him noticing. That Black Rope who was still walking in the sky turned into an illusion and disappeared bit by bit. It was actually just an illusion technique. The Tao of darkness was originally suitable for casting illusion techniques. Since this Black Rope was a cultivator at the Dark Mastery realm, it was not surprising for him to be able to cast an illusion technique without making a sound. Black Rope felt very disappointed that he managed to kill Ning Fan with just a single strike. However, that disappointment only lasted for a moment. At the next moment, it turned into anger. He did not know why Ning Fan did not die. Instead, he used the same method to sneak behind him and pierced his dantian with the ocean-defying sword when he was careless. He who was proficient in illusion techniques was actually tricked by Ning Fan with an illusion technique. Could it be that the attainment of this ancient chaos successor in illusion techniques is even higher than a cultivator at the Dark Mastery realm like me? Bang! After being pierced by the ocean-defying sword, Black Rope's body began to turn into illusory light and disappeared. Far away, Black Rope who was unscathed dispersed the light of the illusion technique and revealed himself. His expression was cold. I remember now. Your name is Ning Fan, right? You are qualified to fight against me. How could he not know Ning Fan's name? He just felt disdain to call Ning Fan by his name. However, at this moment, when Ning Fan saw through his illusion technique, he finally acknowledged Ning Fan a little. Now, he truly acknowledged Ning Fan's qualification to fight against him. As the successor of the Dark Ancestor, I challenge you to a battle. If you lose, you will die. If you win, I, Black Rope, will allow you to take everything from the Dark Clan, including my life. Do you dare to enter the void space of my master position and fight me to the death? As soon as Black Rope finished speaking, he raised his hand and drew a line across heaven and earth, tearing open a crack and stepping into it. Rumbling dark chi swept out from the crack, causing the surrounding heaven and earth to turn dark. Why wouldn't I dare? Ning Fan's eyes were calm. In a flash, he stepped into the crack. As soon as he entered the crack, a gigantic black dragon roared and rushed towards him. It had the cultivation base of an immortal venerable. Ning Fan turned his hand and slashed the gigantic black dragon with the ocean-defying sword. However, as soon as the gigantic black dragon died, its corpse actually split into two and then into four. In an instant, there were hundreds and thousands of immortal venerable dragons rushing towards him. It seemed like the more they killed, the more of them there would be. Judging from Ning Fan's expression, he seemed to have been stunned by the aura of the thousands of immortal venerable dragons. From the very beginning, he had planned to go all out. After activating the cross-shaped halo, he raised his hand and summoned the one-world water bottle, as if he wanted to kill the group of immortal venerable dragons. However, as soon as the water bottle soared into the sky, it was frozen in place by a ray of black light. Its power was sealed and it could not be activated at all. Then, Black Rope forcefully grabbed it and snatched it away. With your current cultivation base, using your magic treasure in front of me is no different from displaying your slight skill in front of an expert. I also know a little about the Heaven Sealing Finger. If I must say, the inheritance of the Eastern Heaven Ancestral Emperor that I have mastered is more complete than yours. From now on, this bottle belongs to me. Black Rope had witnessed the power of the one-world water bottle with his own eyes. Even someone as arrogant as him was greatly tempted by it. Ning Fan's cultivation base was too low. It was impossible for the water bottle to regain its former glory in his hands. Black Rope, on the other hand, was different. If he were to use this bottle, at least 9 out of the 11 immortal emperors of the dark races would die even if he could not summon the boundless sea to enhance the power of the bottle like Ning Fan. Without the water bottle, this young man is not worth mentioning. Dragon Breath of Darkness, kill this young man. Black Rope gave another command. The thousands of enraged dragons began to spew out their dragon breaths. The dragon breaths were neither poisonous nor fiery. Hundreds and thousands of them gathered together, forming a sea of fire with alternating red and green dragon breaths. In an instant, it drowned Ning Fan. Seeing that Ning Fan actually did not run away after being attacked by the dragon breaths, Black Rope yawned in boredom. He thought to himself, even an immortal emperor would have to avoid the combined attack of 1,000 dragon breaths. If Ning Fan is directly hit by them, he would probably die without any remains. Boring. This is way too boring. I haven't even warmed up and my opponent is already dead. He is indeed a weakling. Just as he was feeling disappointed, Black Rope suddenly let out a muffled groan. For some reason, he coughed out a mouthful of poisonous blood. His expression turned grim. He glared at the water bottle in his hand and saw that it was covered with ink marks. They looked like tiny tadpoles swimming on the body of the bottle. If it is not activated, those ink marks would look like the blue and white flowers on the body of the bottle. However, they were actually not. Those ink marks contained an enormous amount of poison power. Ning Fan had hidden them on the water bottle in advance, waiting for Black Rope to snatch the bottle from him. As Black Rope was careless, Ning Fan's sneak attack really succeeded. The poison power was extremely domineering. After all, it was the poison power that Ning Fan cultivated using the poison immortal of the three desolate poison realm as his origin. Black Rope snatched the water bottle into his hand. In just a few breaths' time, his entire right hand which was holding the bottle had turned purplish black. It had been invaded by the deadly poison. Even though Black Rope's magic power was boundless and his physical body was also strong, allowing him to forcefully suppress the poison power in his body, he was still slightly injured by Ning Fan. His right hand felt slightly numb due to the poison. It made Black Rope lose his grip on the water bottle. The water bottle took the opportunity to turn into a ray of light and escaped. Then, the water bottle flew all the way back to the center where the thousands of dragon breaths were burning. That was where Ning Fan was. The item had been returned to its rightful owner. The beast-toothed dagger that day had the same chi as yours. You should be the one who took it away, right? You cut me once and I poisoned you once. This is considered returning the favor. Ning Fan kept the water bottle. He opened his mouth and swallowed the burning and ferocious dragon breath into his stomach. His expression remained the same as before, as if he was just swallowing air instead of some fiery poisonous dragon breath. He shouted, "Dispel," again. Then, the thousands of immortal venerables turned into rays of illusory light and dispersed. He had the ability to break the thousand dragons' illusory technique right from the beginning. The reason why he pretended that he could not break it was just to set up a trap to trick Black Rope into being poisoned. However, he did not expect that Black Rope actually knew the heaven sealing technique. In that case, the sealing effect of the cross-shaped halos would probably be useless against Black Rope. In the outside world, the 5 dark saints seemed to have sensed something and were slightly surprised. All of them knew how difficult it was for Black Rope to break the illusory technique once he was in the palm void. Moreover, the Thousand Dragons illusory technique was one of the strongest illusory techniques of the dark race. They did not expect Ning Fan to be able to break it so easily and even set Black Rope up. This was something that even quasi-saints like them could not do easily. It seemed like this battle would not end as quickly as they had imagined, hee. So what if the successor of Ancient Chaos is not afraid of illusory techniques? What Black Rope is best at is never illusory techniques but body techniques. With his divine power that can pierce through all living things and his body technique, he is invincible. Even a quasi-saint like me would not be willing to exchange blows with Black Rope using body techniques. There is only one reason why Black Rope did not use his body technique until now. The successor of Ancient Chaos has yet to force him to show his true strength. Since the illusory technique is ineffective, Black Rope is probably going to use magic techniques. He has already mastered 3 of the 4 great divine abilities of the old ancestor. The successor of Ancient Chaos is in danger. I wonder how long he can last. Chapter 1107. The Dark Ancestors 4 Arts, Finger Furnace Wheel, had always been a secret of the Dark Race. There were very few people in the clan who were qualified to practice the 4 arts, and even fewer who could truly master them. Among all the members of the clan, Black Rope was the only one who could cultivate the first 3 of the 4 techniques at the same time. In addition to his special identity, it was no wonder that the 5 saints of the dark race thought so highly of him and believed that Ning Fan would surely lose. It would be strange if Ning Fan wins. One should know that even the quasi-saints in the clan could at most fight Black Rope to a draw. In the void above the dark palm, Black Rope frowned. He looked at his palm, which had been paralyzed by the poison, and did not say anything for a long time. He didn't want to admit it, but he had to admit that he was tricked by Ning Fan's carelessness. The mouthful of poisonous blood that he coughed out was a wake-up call for his carelessness. But, so what if he was careless? It was just a mouthful of blood. Even if he coughed out millions of mouthfuls of blood, he wouldn't die. What a senseless method. You actually poisoned the water drowning bottle and tempted me to snatch it. Humph. Your brain is quite flexible, and your poison power is also not bad. If an ordinary immortal emperor was attacked by your poison power, he would at least suffer some injuries. But you don't know that I'm different from those bastards. Such insignificant tricks are useless against me. Black Rope snorted in disdain. Suddenly, a blood-red light erupted from his body. Wherever the blood-red light touched, countless ancient tree shadows appeared and filled the void above the palm position. Each of the ancient tree shadows exuded a powerful life force, and their auras were as vast as the mountains and the seas. However, not long after they appeared, the shadows dissipated one after another. Be it the blood-red light or the ancient tree phantom, they were not divine abilities. Instead, they were phenomena formed by the activation of the blood chi in his body, resonating with heaven and earth. The poison that invaded his body was forcefully refined by him without caring about the backlash. Naturally, there was no longer any numbness on his palm. He looked at Ning Fan and let out a lazy yawn. Although it's just an insignificant skill, it seems like illusion techniques don't have much effect on you. Even the 1,000-dragon illusion couldn't hurt you at all. Since that's the case, I'll use a bit of my strength. I'll use 10% of my strength to fight you. What a contemptuous tone. However, this time, Ning Fan was not enraged by the other party's contempt. Instead, his expression changed abruptly as he was deeply shocked. With his calm temperament, it was rare for him to be so shocked since he started cultivating. This time, he had no choice but to make an exception. The phantom image of the ancient tree that appeared in the void seemed to be the ancient tree of life that was recorded in some ancient records. There were at least 1,000 ancient tree shadows. If it was really the ancient tree of life and there were 1,000 of them, didn't that mean the bloody light around Black Rope must be the light emitted by his immense chi and blood? What an enormous amount of chi and blood, what exuberant vitality. How could there be such a monster in the second step? If the life chi of an ordinary immortal emperor gave Ning Fan the feeling of a vast ocean, the Black Rope would be like the vast starry sky or the primitive universe. They were on completely different orders of magnitude. The amount of blood and chi that Black Rope displayed was at least 1,000 times that of an ordinary immortal emperor. Did his poison attack not work? No, it's not like that. If his poison attack could cause 1% of the chi and blood of an ordinary immortal emperor, the damage to Black Rope's chi and blood was less than 1/100,000th of an ordinary immortal emperor's chi and blood. Because it was too insignificant, the injury was almost negligible. He was a monster. A true monster. His existence had completely deviated from the common sense of cultivation. It was extremely difficult to inflict a serious enough injury on him. Killing him was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The difficulty of killing him was comparable to killing 1,000 immortal emperors. Hee. This successor of ancient chaos seems to have been scared silly by Black Rope's enormous chi and blood. One of the dark saints shook his head disdainfully. The other dark saints also laughed and said, "No wonder this successor of ancient chaos was dumbfounded. I'm afraid it's his first time seeing a living being with such an enormous amount of chi and blood." Putting aside Black Rope's other abilities, his life force alone is thousands of times greater than that of an ordinary immortal emperor. The ancient tree of life phenomenon can only appear when one's chi and blood are extremely strong. The stronger the chi and blood, the more tree shadows will appear in the phenomenon. Even we, the sage-to-be, can't create such a phenomenon. However, Black Rope can create thousands of trees. He's not just a monster for show. If some kind of divine ability successfully hits the target and can cause fatal damage to an ordinary immortal emperor, such an attack would need thousands of hits to be able to kill Black Rope. Moreover, Black Rope's body wouldn't have the chance to automatically recover during the process. A divine spirit who possesses the royal bloodline. Even if he's just a demigod, it's not something that can be understood with common sense. Not to mention the successor of ancient chaos, even if it's us demi-saints, who can truly kill Black Rope. I'm afraid only the great ancient cultivators like the old ancestor have the means to kill Black Rope. That's why in our clan, Black Rope is only afraid of the old ancestor. Other than him, he's like a superior ultimate god in front of everyone else. Since ancient times, the immortal emperor is the only one whose vitality is comparable to this monster's among the second-step immortals. Using the immortal bloodline to suppress a deity with the royal bloodline, that's the real power. Although Ning Fan was not afraid of Black Rope, he could not calm his heart down. At first, he thought that the so-called successor of the Dark Ancestor would be the strongest enemy he would ever meet in his life. However, he did not expect that the opponent was not on the same level as him at all. In fact, the opponent was far stronger than him. Even if Black Rope stood still and let him hit him, how many years would it take for him to kill him? Don't get distracted. Let me have some fun. Even though I will only use 10% of my strength, you should be proud of yourself. You should know that even a sixth tribulation immortal emperor of my clan is only worthy of me using 5% of my strength. Next, I won't use my illusory technique anymore. I will only use my master's famous ultimate technique to kill you. Black Rope slowly raised his finger. Boundless black chi whizzed towards him from heaven and earth and gathered at the tip of his finger, forming a burning black flame. That black flame was not a flame. It was formed by the ultimate power of the Dark Ancestor. A massive black sun appeared behind Black Rope. It emanated an ancient chi. The evil chi of darkness suddenly spread. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was polluted by Black Rope at this moment. Without a certain level of defense, one would not dare to absorb the power of heaven and earth casually. It was the Dark Dazzling Finger, one of the 4 techniques of the Dark Ancestor. Ning Fan had seen Sen Luo use this ability before. With his cultivation base, he could severely injure the 9th Nether Great Emperor with just a finger. Black Rope's strength far surpassed Sen Luo's. Moreover, he was the owner of the Dark Ancestor's Dark Dazzling Finger. The destructive power of the Dark Dazzling Finger that he used was several times stronger than Sen Luo's. It was enough to severely injure an ordinary 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor. Was such a terrifying finger really just 10% of Black Rope's strength? Ning Fan's face darkened. At this moment, he knew very well that he would not be able to defeat Black Rope in this trip to the Dark Race no matter what. Perhaps even ordinary quasi-saints would not be able to defeat Black Rope. However, even if he knew that he could not defeat Black Rope, he was unwilling to admit his defeat. He was fighting on behalf of the ancient Chaos Great Emperor. He could not lose to Black Rope. All of a sudden, Black Rope pressed his finger down. The black flames on his fingertip were extinguished. However, the massive black sun behind him instantly shattered into countless black flame fragments. Those black flame fragments then turned into tens of thousands of black fire crows. The fire crows gathered together and turned into a gigantic finger made of black flames. It was so huge that it could cover the entire sky. Then, it rushed towards Ning Fan's head. Divine Sword Slaying Dao. Under the cross-shaped halo, Ning Fan waved his hand and activated the 5 yin-yang swords. He used his endless magic power to form a 1000 zhang divine sword and slashed at the gigantic finger. This gigantic finger was condensed from the power of the Dao law of a sovereign realm Dao Lord. Using the Dao slaying divine sword to slash at it, theoretically, Ning Fan could receive a huge damage bonus. However, that was just a theory. Black Rope could only blame himself for being too strong. If Sen Luo uses the Dark Dazzling Finger, Ning Fan might be able to destroy his technique with a single slash. However, it was different when it was Black Rope who used it. The Dao Slaying Divine Sword only managed to leave a tiny wound on the gigantic finger. Then, it was completely devoured by the dark power on the finger. Then, the finger light that blotted out the sky turned into a boundless sea of black light, engulfing Ning Fan. Sharp buzzing sounds could be heard. It was the sound of countless rays of black light strangling Ning Fan. The 5 ancient chaos swords that are said to be able to break anything actually only has this much power in your hands. This is really disappointing. I wonder if you are too weak or this technique is not strong enough in the first place. Black Rope looked at the sea of black light formed by the finger light and felt extremely disappointed. From his point of view, Ning Fan was probably going to die if he failed to block the finger light and was hit by it head-on. He was finally willing to use 10% of his strength for Ning Fan. However, he did not expect that the battle would end just by using 10% of his strength. The successor of the ancient Chaos Era was very weak. The great emperor of the ancient Chaos Era was probably not that strong either. Compared to you, I am indeed not considered strong. However, I am the only one who is weak. The 5 yin-yang swords is definitely not weaker than your dark dazzling finger. In the sea of black light, a golden flame giant gradually appeared. It was the god-destroying giant that Ning Fan had summoned without holding back anymore. The god-destroying giant walked in the sea of light. No matter how much damage it received from the sea of light, it could not hurt it at all. Its defense was truly heaven-defying. This is the heaven-opening treasure. This young man actually has such a precious treasure. The 5 saints of the dark race gasped. Even though they did not recognize the god-destroying shield directly, they could still sense a trace of the chi of the heaven-opening treasure. Each of their eyes were filled with greed. It's actually the heaven-opening treasure. Impossible. How could this young man have such a treasure? This isn't something that the ancient Chaos Era can give to him. Even the ancient Chaos Era doesn't deserve it. In the first layer of the great dark heaven, Dark Ancestor's eyes widened in surprise. Then, greed also flashed across his eyes. Who would not be tempted by the heaven-opening treasure? Even great cultivators from ancient times would covet it. That was also the reason why Ning Fan was unwilling to expose the existence of the god-destroying shield in front of so many greedy old monsters if there was even the slightest possibility. However, now that things had developed to this stage, Jiang Yi did not want to worry so much anymore. If he did not use the god-exterminating shield, he did not have the confidence to fight evenly with Black Rope. Black Rope was much stronger than him. But no matter what, he didn't want to lose to Black Rope. He didn't want Ancient Chaos Emperor to be looked down upon by Black Rope. With the reputation of Ancient Chaos, even if he couldn't win this battle, he wouldn't allow himself to be defeated. No matter how strong his opponent's blood vitality was, he would beat him until his opponent's blood vitality was depleted. You actually have split the heavens. Black Rope, who had been acting high and mighty all this while, finally had his expression change. His expression was one of intense shock. A heaven-opening treasure. How could such a treasure appear in the hands of a second-step cultivator? Even a third-step saint would not be qualified to possess such a treasure. No, it wasn't a complete heaven-opening artifact. But even if it was just a fragment, it shouldn't be in the hands of a second-step expert. Moreover, for some unknown reason, the chi that Ning Fan's heaven-opening divine tool gave Black Rope an ominous feeling. Similarly, he did not recognize the god-exterminating shield. However, he felt a trace of danger from the god-exterminating shield. If 1 slash isn't enough, how about 10 slashes or 100 slashes? The god-exterminating giant held the ocean-defying gigantic sword in his hand and slashed out with it, creating a vacuum path in the sea of black light. Wherever the sword light reached, the black light would be destroyed. Under the protection of the cross-shaped light halo, Ning Fan did not have to worry about the consumption of his magic power. The only thing he had to worry about was the consumption of his mental strength. Luckily, there was still a small mountain of spirit recovering rice in the sack of rice. Ning Fan, who was hiding inside the god-exterminating giant's body, could immediately consume the rice to recover once his mental strength was depleted. The fact that you have a fragment of the heaven-opening treasure has indeed shocked me. However, the current you isn't strong enough to force me to use more of my strength. Dual Polar Black Radiance. Black Rope pressed his finger a second time. Suddenly, a second gigantic black sun appeared behind him. After it collapsed, it turned into a second layer of black sea of light and rushed towards Ning Fan. The destructive power of the sea of light instantly increased by more than one-fold. The sizzling dark power turned into streaks of lightning and struck the god-exterminating giant's body. Almost every breath, there would be hundreds of attacks landing on the giant's body. However, they could only create circles of golden halos. They could not break through the giant's defense at all. The god-exterminating giant did not utter a single word. He swung his sword in silence, using the 5 yin-yang swords which had yet to reach the highest level to resist the black radiance finger which had already reached the perfect level. Be it his strength or the proficiency of his abilities, Ning Fan did not have any advantage in any of them. However, none of them was a reason for him to lower his head and admit defeat. Desperate situations often gave people the opportunity to achieve breakthroughs. That was why some people loved to challenge the strong. The more dangerous the battle, the greater the reward. Ning Fan was currently in such a situation. The scenes of him using the Tao-slaying divine sword in the past flashed in his mind. The more critical the situation was, the quieter and clearer those memories became. He suddenly had an unprecedented understanding of the 5 yin-yang swords. The 5 yin-yang swords. Each of the 5 swords could break one technique. The word destroy seemed to resonate with the ancient devil Tao of destruction. In the past, did the great emperor Ancient Chaos create the 5 yin-yang swords because he had comprehended the ancient devil Tao of destruction because he cultivated the 3 paths of God, demon and devil Tao. Destruction. Destruction, the 5 yin-yang swords can destroy anything. What is destruction? What is destruction? The Tao-slaying divine sword that the god-exterminating giant released gradually changed. In the past, when Ning Fan used the Tao-slaying divine sword, it always carried a sense of righteousness and calmness. However, this time, the Tao-slaying divine sword that he released was filled with a devil nature, a domineering aura, an unreasonable aura and an unreasonable aura. Ning Fan was forcefully channeling the ancient devil Tao of destruction that he had comprehended in his entire life into the Tao-slaying divine sword. Slash. 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 There was absolutely no obstacle in the path of the ancient devil. Those who stand in his way will all be killed. The god-exterminating giant held the sword in his hand and fought. Time and time again, he slashed away the black thunderbolts that shot out from the sea of dark light. His aura force became stronger and stronger. The attacks from the sea of dark light could not hurt Ning Fan at all. However, every time Ning Fan swung his sword, he could destroy a large area of the sea of dark light. 10 slashes. 20 slashes. 30 slashes. After more than 70 slashes, the god-exterminating giant completely destroyed the sea of dark light and walked out unscathed. Then, he swung his sword at Black Rope across a vast distance. It was like a provocation but also a proof. My ancient chaos absolute art is not any weaker than your dark bright finger. You've just broken 2 of my fingers. Why are you so happy? Black Rope let out a cold snort. He formed a black sun with his dark bright finger and smashed it at Ning Fan. Ning Fan swung his sword for another 70+ times in one go, shattering the black sun into pieces. Then, with a sway of his body, he suddenly approached Black Rope and swung the sea-defying sword at him. The sword carried the weight of 7 cultivation planets. Black Rope could feel the strong wind coming from the sea-defying sword. However, he did not bother to dodge it. Instead, he directly used his bare hands to receive the heavy edge of the sword. The sealing effect of the cross-shaped halos was ineffective against him. The weight of 7 stars did not shake Black Rope's body at all. He remained as still as a mountain and easily blocked the slash of the sea-defying sword with his bare hands. The toughness of his physical body and the tremendous amount of strength he possessed shocked Ning Fan. Ever since he started cultivating the Tao, it was his first time encountering an enemy who could receive the sea-defying sword without moving an inch. Fortunately, this sword strike was not all. At the moment when Black Rope received the attack, hundreds and thousands of divine abilities took shape inside the cross-shaped halos and hit his body. Black Rope sneered. He did not dodge or evade the attack. The combination of thousands of divine abilities was enough to make some immortal emperors retreat. However, when they landed on his body, they only left his skin, hair and leather skirt slightly burnt. The damage they caused was not enough to damage his foundation at all. Successor of ancient chaos, is this your full strength? You're really too weak. Black Rope swung his right hand and hurled the sea-defying sword along with the god-destroying giant that was holding the sword away. The tremendous force spread out and actually caused some cracks to appear on the giant. He broke the god-destroying giant's defense with his bare hands. This Black Rope is really powerful. However, this was not the credit of his dark bright finger. Instead, it was the result of Black Rope's powerful physical body. Some of the tremendous force passed through the god-destroying giant's avatar and reached Ning Fan's body, causing him to feel as if his internal organs were being torn apart. He coughed out a mouthful of blood. The gap between us is just too huge, however, I can't be afraid of this battle. I can't retreat. Roar! Ning Fan's battle intent became stronger and stronger. The enhancement of the yin-yang battle technique made his will as firm as a rock. His mind would not waver in front of any strong enemies. Lightning Prison Rope. Ning Fan secretly called out the name of the lightning prison rope in his mind. The lightning prison rope that was hidden somewhere in the void suddenly sensed his call. It suddenly appeared and tied up Black Rope, who was caught off guard. Black Rope was stunned. Then, he sneered. His body trembled violently and he directly broke the lightning prison rope, destroying this innate magic treasure. Since their minds were connected, Ning Fan coughed out another mouthful of blood. He suffered a backlash. Fortunately, the recovery rate of the cross-shaped halo was astonishing. All of his injuries were instantly healed. Losing an innate magic treasure was definitely enough to make ordinary immortal emperors feel like dying. However, to Ning Fan, who had a lot of treasures, it was not a big deal. After breaking Ning Fan's lightning prison rope, Black Rope was about to mock him. However, he suddenly froze and coughed out another mouthful of poisonous blood. Then, he became furious. He actually fell for Ning Fan's trick twice with the same trick. The lightning prison rope was actually poisoned as well. I've said it before. Your insignificant tricks are useless against me. Black Rope flew into a rage out of humiliation. Anyone who had fallen into the same trap twice would not be able to remain calm. You've also said that you will only use 10% of your strength to fight me. I don't think that you can break my golden body Dharma idol and destroy my innate magic treasure with just 10% of your strength. The god-destroying giant said coldly. Black Rope became even more furious. He felt that every word that Ning Fan said was a slap to his face. Indeed, after he saw Ning Fan break his dark dazzling finger, he unconsciously used all of his strength. Otherwise, how could Ning Fan still be suppressed by him even after using the heaven-opening treasure? In a fight between cultivators, there was no honesty nor despicable behavior. Besides, he was not a kind person. Even if he went back on his words, he did not feel that it was inappropriate. However, when Ning Fan pointed it out to his face, he still felt a little angry. You only know how to talk fast. As expected, you're just a trash. Black Rope's face was filled with killing intent. He waved his hand and an endless amount of dark power turned into a gigantic ink painting of an immortal, sweeping towards Ning Fan. This ink painting of an immortal was the second technique of the Dark Ancestors' ultimate technique, the Black Water Painting. The name of the Black Water Painting did not sound domineering. However, the two words Black Water actually carried endless killing intent. Even if ordinary immortal emperors were to be sucked into this painting, they would turn into black water and die within a short period of time. It was extremely powerful. Even though Ning Fan was confident that his god-destroying giant was strong enough, he was unwilling to be sucked into this painting for no reason. Thus, he controlled the god-destroying giant to deliver more than 90 strikes in a row. Using the Tao-slaying divine sword, he shattered the black water painting into pieces. Ning Fan, who had successfully cultivated the dark yin-yang divine sword, had a great understanding of the Tao of darkness. If this black water painting was constructed from other Tao laws, he certainly would not be able to easily destroy it with the Tao-slaying divine sword. Unfortunately, with the dark yin-yang divine sword, even if he was not Black Rope's opponent, he still had some ways to protect himself. After succeeding in his first attack, Ning Fan seized the opportunity and continued to attack. He controlled the god-destroying giant to throw punches at Black Rope again and again. It was the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike. Ning Fan's continuous attacks were like a rainstorm. However, Black Rope directly used his physical body to receive all of the punches. Only when Ning Fan's attacks reached 800 times did he manage to make Black Rope cough out blood. He no longer dared to receive the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike head-on. Hence, whenever Ning Fan's ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike reached a certain number of times, Black Rope would use the heaven sealing technique to freeze Ning Fan for a short period of time. It would break the momentum of Ning Fan's consecutive attacks, making it impossible for Ning Fan to launch any more powerful attacks and deal any damage to him. Even the old ancestor's second technique can't suppress this young man. This young man's strength is obviously not as good as Black Rope's. However, he managed to break the old ancestor's technique time and time again. Could it be that the secret arts of our dark race are really not as good as the ancient chaos secret art? I don't believe it. Humph. If Black Rope doesn't use the old ancestor's technique and directly uses his physical body to beat this young man, he would probably be dead by now. Be careful with your words. It won't be good if the old ancestor hears your words. The 5 saints of the dark race could not remain calm in the outside world. At first, they thought that Ning Fan would only be able to hold on for a short period of time in Black Rope's hands. However, after careful calculation, they realized that Black Rope had already been fighting Ning Fan for nearly 1 hour and he still could not take him down. One could imagine the burden on Ning Fan's mind after 1 hour of bitter battle. One had to know that he had been fighting Black Rope with the cross-shaped halo on his body for the past 1 hour. He who was hiding inside the god-destroying giant's body had to consume a large amount of spirit-recovering rice every once in a while to recover his mind. In just 1 hour, he had already consumed more than 1,000 gene of spirit-recovering rice. There were still more than 80,000 gene of new rice in his bag of rice. However, if he continues to consume it like this, he might not be able to last until the end of his battle with Black Rope. Black Dazzling Finger Attack. Tao Slaying Divine Sword Block Attack. The Black Water Diagrams 12 Diagrams Chi Town. Tao Slaying Divine Sword 1000 Swords Attack. On the surface, Ning Fan and Black Rope seemed to be evenly matched. However, Ning Fan was well aware that even though Black Rope had used all of his strength, he insisted on using the abilities of the dark race to attack him. Unfortunately, the abilities of the dark race were completely restrained by Ning Fan's techniques. That was the reason why Black Rope could not deal a fatal blow to him. If Black Rope directly uses his insanely strong physical body to fight him head-on, Ning Fan did not know how many rounds he would be able to last. The god-destroying giant might be smashed to pieces by Black Rope's punches. If my cultivation base is a little stronger, it won't be so strenuous for me to fight against Black Rope. I have 50,000 immeasurable pills with me and 3 10,000 years time towers that I have yet to use. If Ning Fan clenched his fists and made up his mind. He knew that if he does not make any changes and continues to fight like this, he would only be defeated. Cauldron of Een Killing. Black Rope was left with no choice. In the end, he even used the third ultimate technique of the Dark Ancestor. He used his ability to conjure a boundless gigantic cauldron and directly trapped the god-destroying giant inside. The Yin flames burned fiercely in the cauldron. It actually showed signs of burning the god-destroying giant into charcoal. However, not long after, the cauldron of Yin killing was split open by Ning Fan's thousands of slashes and it escaped. It was because the cauldron of Yin killing was the ultimate technique of the Dark Ancestor. It was also a divine ability that operated on the power of darkness. Of course, it would be very disadvantageous to use it against Ning Fan. Even my master's third technique can't hurt you, huh? Unfortunately, I don't know my master's last technique, the sacred ring of imitation darkness. Otherwise, it certainly wouldn't be that difficult to kill you. Black Rope frowned. Illusion techniques could not kill Ning Fan. Magic techniques could not kill Ning Fan. As expected, I can only use the body technique that I'm the best at. Black Rope took a step forward. With a speed that was not inferior to Ning Fan's, he instantly appeared beside Ning Fan. Without saying a word, he raised his hand and threw an unreasonable punch. That punch gave Ning Fan an unimaginable feeling. It was as if the power of the entire Palm Void realm was added to that punch. Because of that, the strength of that punch was already unfathomable. As soon as the punch arrived, it directly penetrated the god-destroying giant and blasted Ning Fan, who was inside the giant's body, into a mist of blood. No. The feeling doesn't feel right, damn it. I'm obviously a Palm Void realm cultivator, but I actually fell for his illusion technique again. Release. As soon as Black Rope released the illusion technique, he saw a gigantic cauldron which emanated lightning chi falling from the sky and enveloping him. It was the immemorial lightning cauldron. Sensing the mid-grade innate chi of the cauldron, Black Rope could not help but feel shocked. He did not expect Ning Fan to actually have 2 mid-grade innate magic treasures. Then, when he thought about it again, he realized that Ning Fan even had the heaven-opening fragment. Even though this treasure was powerful, it was not enough to kill him. Boom! The Eastern Mountain divine lightning exploded in the cauldron. Then, Black Rope let out a muffled groan. However, a few more sounds of iron fists reverberated in the air. The immemorial lightning cauldron was actually punched by Black Rope. After that, Black Rope turned into a ray of dark light and escaped from the cauldron. He landed in the void above the cauldron. There were some traces of blood at the corner of his mouth, but his expression remained the same. It seems like the loss of his blood chi is still extremely weak. Even after damaging a mid-grade innate magic treasure, it still could not inflict any serious damage on him, Ning Fan sighed. Without waiting for Black Rope to continue attacking him, he suddenly controlled the god-destroying giant to tear open a spatial crack and entered it. Black Rope was stunned. Then, he sneered coldly, thinking that Ning Fan was really stupid. Just because he could not defeat me, he chose to hide in a medium-level world. A medium-level cosmos treasure is useless in a battle of this level. I'm going to chase you into your medium-level world right now and kill you. Black Rope's body swayed and turned into a ray of black light, entering the spatial crack of the profound Yin world. However, just as he entered the profound Yin world, he was forcefully thrown out by a heavy punch. After that, Ning Fan walked out of the profound Yin world with a face that was filled with vicissitudes of life. His face was covered with the frost of 30,000 years. The last 3 10,000 years time towers had been completely used up, his bone age had increased to 170,000 years. His cultivation base had undergone a huge change. What did you do? Why do I feel that you are somewhat different? Black Rope's expression turned slightly solemn. Ning Fan, who was standing in front of him, seemed to have undergone a huge change in his cultivation base. Of course, such a change was still not enough for him to pay attention to him. This young man had yet to break through to the immortal king realm. The feeling he gave him was still that of an immortal venerated throughout the ages. However, for some unknown reason, he felt an unprecedented sense of danger. It was as if there was something extra on this young man that could bring him fatal danger. In just a short while, this young man entered a medium-level world and walked out from it in the blink of an eye. Why did he feel that the young man was completely different from before? I've spent 30,000 years to increase my strength. During these 30,000 years, I've also figured out some things. What 30,000 years? What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind or something? Black Rope looked at Ning Fan with a frown. He was secretly vigilant. His fur stood up instinctively. It was a premonition of danger. Previously, when I fought you, it was too sudden. I didn't have the time to think about some of the strange things about you. However, after that, I figured it out. If you really are the living being that I've guessed, you might be killed by me. What a load of nonsense. Pretending to be mysterious can't change the fact that I'm stronger than you. Black Rope took a step forward. He wanted to get closer to Ning Fan with his speed and kill him instantly. After all, Ning Fan was a little careless at the moment. He actually did not activate the God-destroying giant and did not use the heaven-opening weapon. Most likely, he would not even be able to withstand a single punch from him. However, when he had just taken half a step forward, he suddenly saw a dark golden protective golden light flowing inside Ning Fan's body. As soon as the golden light appeared, it actually gave Black Rope a feeling of goosebumps. It made his hair stand on end. He forcefully withdrew his step and stood on the spot. That protective golden light gave him a strange sense of familiarity. That protective golden light seemed to be. It seemed to be the light of Ning Fan's heaven-opening weapon. However, why did it come from Ning Fan's skin, blood and bones? Wait. This young man seemed to have snatched the incinerating cauldron from the 12th level of the Great Dark Heaven, didn't he? The ancient divine spirits had 4 essential treasures. They were the divine refining cauldron, the incinerating cauldron, the chi and blood gourd and the spirit sense millstone. Only true gods with a crippled divine spirit body and above could use these 4 treasures to rapidly increase their divine power. Could it be that this young man actually? Why you refined the fragment of your heaven-opening weapon into divine liquid and consumed it? Black Rope panicked for the first time. He raised his finger in disbelief and pointed at Ning Fan. Yeah. You actually saw through it. It seems like you're really a demigod. Ning Fan said with a smile. It would be great if the other party was really a demigod. In that case, the eternal true body that he had obtained from the incinerating cauldron would really come in handy. Then, could it be that you're a true god? After all, if you're a demigod, even a first-generation demigod like me would not be able to obtain the cauldron's recognition with just diluted divine blood. That's my cauldron. My father left it to me. Return it to me. Return it to me. You're not allowed to use it. Cut the crap. Let's continue the battle just now. Ning Fan silently activated his eternal true body. His body gradually grew bigger and turned dark golden. His body became covered in armor and he held a shield in his left hand. During the 30,000 years, he had already condensed his own eternal true body after his cultivation base broke through the eternal zero tribulation. Moreover, due to some unexpected gains, this eternal true body gained a special ability called God-Destroying Technique. It's a pity that the God-Destroying Shield of the Ancient Kingdom, currently, Ning Fan no longer had the God-Destroying Shield of the Ancient Kingdom in his dantian. It had already been refined into divine liquid by Ning Fan and was refined into his skin, blood and bones. His eternal true body was actually the same as the God-Destroying Giant of the Ancient Kingdom's God-Destroying Shield. However, it was different from before. The previous God-Destroying Giant was just an illusory image of the God-Destroying Shield. The current Golden Flame Giant was Ning Fan's physical body. In terms of physical defense, it was not any weaker than the God-Destroying Giant. In fact, it was even stronger because it had devoured the divine liquid of other innate magic treasures. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. You can't possibly be a true god. I don't believe it. So what if you're a true god? It's still as easy as flipping my palm to kill you. You have yet to truly grow while I have millions of years more than you. It's impossible for you to be a match for me. After devouring you, I might be able to advance to the true deity level. I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you. Black Rope turned into a ray of black lightning and dashed towards Ning Fan. At the moment when he arrived, Dark Ancestor's voice sounded with a hint of excitement. Good disciple. Don't kill this deity-level deity. Capture him alive and spare his life. I need him to remove the black stick from my body. Unfortunately, Dark Ancestor's excited voice came a little too late. Black Rope had used all of his strength in that punch. He did not even hesitate to burn a huge amount of blood and chi to increase the destructive power of his punch. It was a strike that was infinitely close to the peak 9 tribulation realm of a sovereign immortal emperor. It was not much weaker than the strike of a true quasi-saint. However, when such a punch landed on Ning Fan's body, it actually only made a dent in his chest. It was like a bronze statue that had a dent in its chest and it could not bulge up even after a long time. It hurts. You're really strong. The defense of my physical body has already reached such a high level, but you can still hurt him. It seems like if my eternal true body doesn't have any special abilities, it will still be very difficult for me to defeat you. I know that it's unfair for me to enter the Tower of Time to fight you. Since that's the case, let's consider this duel as a draw. Bang.it was Ning Fan who instantly activated the cross-shaped halo and returned a punch to Black Rope who was staring at him blankly. Black Rope only felt that the giant's fist was getting closer and closer to him. The punch landed on his entire body. In terms of strength, it was not enough to cause him serious damage. However, there was a strange god-destroying power that penetrated into his body through the force of the punch, causing his internal organs to collapse. Blood spurted out from his mouth and his vision turned black. He directly lost his consciousness and fainted. Ning Fan only needed a single punch to knock Black Rope out. However, it was still a little difficult for him to kill Black Rope. According to the strength of Black Rope's blood and chi, Ning Fan would need to use the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike on him continuously for a few days to kill him. Unfortunately, the members of the Dark Race would not give him the chance to kill the monster of their race. Chi. The figures of 5 quasi-saints of the Dark Race rushed into the void above the Master's seat at the same time. One of them rescued Black Rope and protected him while the other 4 surrounded Ning Fan. What's wrong? Didn't your race say that they won't send any quasi-saints to fight against me? You were indeed lying to me. Ning Fan frowned slightly and scrutinized the 5 Dark Saints. He knew very well that even though his current cultivation base had reached the eternal ancient realm and he had even forged his eternal ancient true body, his combat power did not increase by much. At most, he could kill 6 tribulation immortal emperors in an instant to 7 tribulation immortal emperors and 8 tribulation immortal emperors when he was at his limit. However, it was still not enough for him to fight against a true quasi-saint. The reason why he was able to knock Black Rope unconscious with a single punch was because he used the god-destroying power of the god-destroying shield. If he were to fight against him at the same level, he would not have more than a 10% chance of winning even if he risked his life after his cultivation base had improved. I didn't expect that a mere ant like you is also a monster. Moreover, you are even more real than the monsters of my race. You are a real monster. Since that is the case, come with us. Our old ancestor has a small matter that he needs your help with. The leader of the second-level Dark Saints said in an irrefutable manner. What if I refuse? Ning Fan sneered. He did not think that these 5 Dark Saints were asking for his help out of goodwill. His eyes seemed to have noticed something and he looked at a certain direction in the void above the position of the palm. With a slight sneer, his body flashed and he directly evaded the line of sight of the Dark Saints with his speed. Then, he broke through the void above the position of the palm and escaped. At the next moment, somewhere in the void above the position of the palm, a withered hand with a black stick in it suddenly grabbed at the position where Ning Fan was just now. Seeing that his attack missed, and Yuanshan's cold voice immediately resounded across the entire dark race. Capture this young man, dead or alive. I don't need the battle between the inheritors anymore. As long as I capture this young man, I can be reborn and appear in this world again. I will then personally challenge ancient chaos. The one who manages to get his corpse intact will obtain everything of our clan as a reward. All the members of the dark race who knew the truth and those who did not were in an uproar because of the sudden order given by their old ancestor. Then, countless rays of traveling light dashed towards the direction of the second heavenly layer at all costs. As soon as Ning Fan escaped from the void above the position of the palm, he ran all the way to the lower layer of the sky. He sighed softly. He sighed because he had obeyed the rules and agreed to the battle with the dark race. In the end, even though he was lucky enough to win, he still ended up falling out with the dark race. At first, I thought that the dark ancestor who was a great cultivator from the ancient times would at least abide by the rules of the Jianghu. Now, it seems like I was too optimistic. In the face of great benefits, even great cultivators from the ancient times would have to go back on their words. However, I wonder if the reason why he went back on his words is because of the defeat of his inheritor or the fact that I have refined the fragment of the heaven-opening treasure or the fact that I am a crippled divine spirit. He had been cultivating diligently in the profound Yin world for 30,000 years. However, it was just a blink of an eye in the outside world. The 30,000 years of cultivation was still vivid in his mind. It felt extremely close but also extremely far away at the same time. What exactly did Ning Fan do in these 30,000 years that caused such a huge change in his body? As it turned out, as soon as Ning Fan entered the profound Yin world, he flew across heaven and earth and entered a 10,000 years old tower. Then, he consumed the immeasurable pill which allowed his cultivation base to break through to the eternal immortal venerated realm. He used 10,000 years to consume the immeasurable pill which allowed his cultivation base to break through to the new immortal venerated realm. After 10,000 years, he entered the second 10,000 years old tower and attempted to cultivate his eternal immortal true body. It was during this period of time that his body underwent a huge change. The incinerator that he snatched away from the 12th layer of the great dark heaven by chance changed his cultivation plan. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.